My name is Neg Nasu. I'm a funny purple dog, and I am a collector of hobbies. I'm an armchair psychologist. I love to armchair my audience. I like having uncomfortable discussions, and I'm a weenie, and I like playing pixel games that make me cry. I like drawing. I like singing. I like Japanese media. I like sing Japanese song. こんばんは、皆さん。僕の名前はネクナスです。日本語も話せます。よろしくお願いします。
取りまとえない認めるよ歯がゆくなるよ思惑通りの振る舞いもすこぶるくなよ最高潮の私跳ね上がる Heartbeat 溺れてしまう戻れないくらい踏み入れて回んのささらない初めから分かってる
Back to the list. Pick up another hobby. Develop or pick up another hobby. So picking up, assume. So the wording of this makes me assume that picking up a hobby is you're yoinking a hobby from somebody else. You found the hobby lying on the floor and you're like, yep, I think I will have this. And developing makes it sound like it has grown from within you. And honestly, it's just funny to me because it's so true though. This is so true. This is so true because this really is where hobbies come from. Like it was always in you and you just cultivated it. Versus you see someone else do something cool. Yes, I think I will take this. Yoink. There are two primary skills for an artist, and that is their observation skill and their execution, right? Their observation and their execution. And so this is not my graph, but like I remember the graph like this. Like when you're a beginner artist, let's say this one's O and this one's E. So when you start, like it's kind of generally like you tend to know what looks good, but you can't really execute. So let's just put it here, right? Your execution's kind of bad, but your observation skills are like, yeah, I know what looks good, but what I'm drawing doesn't look good. And then over time, like it tends to balance out sometimes. But then every time you make an improvement, it's usually your observation that will improve first before your execution. So at every single stage of improvement, you will always experience something like this. And you will always, and this straight line here, that is anguish. That is pain. that is pain, because there will always be things wrong with your picture as you get better and better and better. I was really lonely before I became a VTuber, and I just, like I had the feeling of, oh, why would anyone ever watch me play games? Why would everyone ever watch me and hang out with me? So it's sort of like I tricked all of you by drawing cool pictures and making cool song covers. I tricked all of you into being here. When I cut my fingernails and when I cut my toenails, I like to wash them. And then I like to put them in my mouth.
You what?
Ah! I'm going insane!
I guess the most obvious question to start with is, why did you even become a VTuber?
Oh, okay. There are many layers to this. So I guess it's like, okay, so the first reason I give is not the reason I stayed, right? So there's God, starting off with a hard question, which is also an easy question that most people would be able to answer easily if they are a PR person, but I'm gonna go for honesty here. So the reason I became a VTuber was, on the most basic level, I thought it would be fun. On the most basic, I mean, like that's what everybody says, right? Like I thought it would be fun, and that's genuinely what I thought. but also the more sort of curated answer is, at the time, I was making YouTube covers, right? And it was at a period of my life where I was getting more comfortable with myself, because I used to make Vocaloid covers when I was a teenager, actually, but I used to always delete those videos because I would feel embarrassed. And then I had this whole episode of going into university, feeling like I had to be a real adult, having my first retail job and everything, feeling like I had to be normal. And so after I sorted through all that, when I started making, YouTube covers again of Vocaloid songs, and I wanted to call myself an utaite because that's the kind of culture that I grew up with, right? Listening to on the internet, on YouTube, on Nico Nico Doga, and all that stuff. But it was around that time that VTubers started getting popular. And I thought, well, all of these covers are by VTubers now. And also my sister kind of made fun of me, like, oh, you're a VTuber now. And I felt really offended. This was mid 2020. I felt offended. I was how dare you call me a VTuber? I am an utaite. Don't sully my name with those people who stream.
What is an utaite for people who don't know?
So yes, an utaite is once again a hard question for me to explain. I really hope that I do the whole thing justice, but pretty much from my understanding, an utaite is sort of it's from a culture of the internet past, right? On Nico Nico Doga, essentially. It's somebody who embodies a character, but also they cover Vocaloid songs. Well, mostly Vocaloid songs, right? And it's sort of got its own little community and everything. It's not just the person that does song covers. I feel like that in itself doesn't quite embody what a utaite is. An utaite is someone who...
I mean, the literal translation is what? Someone who sings, right?
Yeah. A literal translation is somebody who sings. But in Japanese, it would be a kasu, right? Is somebody who sings, a singer. But an utaite is more of a cultural phenomenon where I guess it's got the implication of being more niche and being more anime centric and being more of a embodying more of a character as opposed to just the person who sings.
So you mentioned Nico Nico. So for people that don't know what that is, that's essentially what Japanese YouTube, right?
Essentially, yeah. Essentially what Japanese YouTube was. And now I think most Japanese people use YouTube itself. But I'd say back in early 2010s, mid 2010s, I think mid 2010s, Japanese people were already moving over to YouTube. But yeah, early 2010s, that's where most Japanese content creators put up their YouTube videos or videos, online videos. That's where they put most of their online videos, and that's where most people did their live streaming as well.
So did discovering that sort of stuff kind of lead you down the path of, getting interested in the language and kind of wanting to communicate with some of the people that were on that site and be able to kind of be a part of that community? And the reason I ask is because, for people that know your channel and, for people that don't, we just talked about this earlier where, you do art, you rigged your own model, you're a streamer, a singer, an artist, and a motion graphics artist. So that's a pretty extensive background. And I'm sure the first, question that comes to a lot of people's minds is well, how did she get into all that stuff? And, how is that related to the Nico Nico Doga stuff? And you wanting to be an utaite? Was it a matter of, I see stuff on Nico Nico, I want to be a utaite myself, so let me learn all these branching interdependent skills so that I can basically, be the utaite that I see myself being? Or was it something else entirely?
Oh, that's an interesting one. So that actually, You've asked like a few questions in that one singular question. And funnily enough, my answer to this actually answers all of them. So essentially, so starting from the top, yes, engaging in all that like nico doga stuff, that did sort of make me want to like fast forward, press my foot down on the speed pedal on learning Japanese, learning how to read, learning how to write. Because other than that, like when I was a kid, all I knew was English, right? Growing up in Australia. And so like that's the answer to that one. But however, the thing about community is I was too much of a chicken to ever make friends with anybody. I did not want to bother anyone. I didn't want to reach out. I thought that I was forever doomed to be someone watching on the sidelines and hoping like, oh man, one day I hope I can be as cool as them. Because to me that all feels like when I learned how to record, how to sing, how to do all this stuff, to me it felt like I was playing pretend. And so I think, nowadays you see a bunch of people, especially VTubers, like they list a bunch of people in their credits. Like this person did the art, this person did the motion graphics, this person did the mixing, yada, 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 right? The reason why I picked up all of those skills was because I didn't think that I was part of them. And for me, it was more like a passing interest of, oh boy, instead of bothering someone else to do all this stuff, because as a kid I had no money, right? So and like I think at the start, like all of this utaite culture, it relied a lot on goodwill of people sort of working and collaborating together. And so because I didn't have anyone around me to collaborate on that stuff with me, at least not until later, right? At least not until later, because I didn't have people around me, I thought, well, I don't want to bother them. I'm just playing around. I'm just playing pretend. So I just decided to pick up the skills myself.
It sounds like when you were picking up these skills, and you can feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like when you were acquiring these skills that you had a severe case of imposter syndrome. Is that inaccurate?
I guess in hindsight, it does sound a bit like imposter syndrome, doesn't it? In hindsight. But
the way you were describing it does, yeah.
Yeah. But at the time, it was genuinely like childlike wonder of like, whoa, this sounds exactly the way that the utaites do it. Whoa, I sound like an utaite, Whoa, this looks so cool. This looks exactly like the way that they do it. Like it's sort of like a kid playing dress up, you know what I mean? And it was that sort of like feeling of wonder that sort of pushed me to discover all these skills. Because nowadays, like when I introduce myself, when raiders come in on stream, I don't even know what to introduce myself as. I don't have a tagline, so I just call myself a hobby collector. I think I'm just someone who has the
understatement of the year
of getting interested. Funny that actually, one of the people in my community, they described me as nerd snipeable. And the way that they define this phrase is, if you explain something to me with some kind of enthusiasm and you get me into the conversation, you can sort of snipe me with your nerdy interests, because I'll be like, oh, I'm interested.
So you never really stopped collecting skills, essentially, is what you're telling me.
Well, I feel like calling them skills. Okay, maybe. Okay, this might be the imposter syndrome talking, right? This might be the imposter syndrome talking. But I feel a little bit bad calling them skills, if you know what I mean, because I feel like a lot of the time when I do get interested in a new thing, unless it's like, a core skill that I force myself to stick with, like, say for example, art, right? And I guess at this point, music ? Yeah, unless it's a core skill, like I feel like I never really get too deep into things before I get enamored with the next thing. It's very, very passing fancy, but I will sort of like, disappear for a week or two to like sort of discover everything that I can and sort of do everything that I can. It's got this feeling of, I see someone else make something cool or do something cool, and my first immediate thought is, whoa, that's so cool, that's amazing. And then it goes to, I wonder how they did that. And then it goes to, I wonder if I can do that. And then it goes to, I wonder if I can create some kind of amalgamation between the other things I know how to do and pull wisdom from this new thing to create something else. And that's actually really interesting because my IRL dream job is game dev. So I think you understand where all this comes from.
A little bit, yeah. So let me back up a little bit. So you mentioned a lot of that stems from having a childlike wonder of like, ooh, like, you know, I feel like an utaite. I'm doing kind of the same thing that they're doing. And you did talk about it a little bit in seeing somebody else's passing interest and getting interested in that and seeing how you can, incorporate that into your already existing skill set. But one of the questions I do have for you is regarding the skills you've already acquired. Do you ever feel like because you've had those skills for so long and because I won't say know everything about, those skills in general, because I imagine they go much deeper. But you have a very very broad understanding of a multiple arrangement of skills. When you look back at the core skills that you have acquired, have you lost that childlike wonder for the ones that you already know, and then it's then it reignites when you see something new, or is it still like, oh, I still love all these things that I've learned, it's just, hey, let me add this new thing to it?
Oh, that's interesting. I think I have burnout periods on each of those things, right? I think for me, like, art is a big one. I'm sure a lot of illustrators and artists understand that feeling of hitting that wall, but it really is very much so okay, I've burnt out on this one, I'm feeling bad, time to put that down. And then immediately, sort of, when I see something else cool, like that spark reignites, like, oh, I can combine this with that, as soon as I see someone else do something cool, I think, oh, that's so cool, I can try to learn from this.
And so it's kind of like that meme, the Toy Story meme, where it's like, I don't want to play with you anymore, except then you pick the toy back up and then you're like, let me see if I can mash these two toys together.
Yeah. Literally, that is actually how it feels.
Okay,
I don't want to play with you anymore unless I can take your head and put it on someone else.
So you're telling me you're basically the Sid of the VTuber industry. I got it. Cool.
Yes, essentially. Yeah. I am very evil.
That baby doll head and put it on like the spider. Yeah, okay. And you also did mention, too, as well, that when these things catch your eye, it's kind of like a passing, fancy. You can be, disappear for 2 weeks at a time and then move on to something else. Has there ever been a point where, and I'll ask this two different ways. Has there ever been a point where you're like, you've taken the 2 weeks and you're like, wow, I really like this, I'm going to keep this, and keep delving further into it? And vice versa. Has there been stuff where you've seen where you've asked yourself the question of, can I do this? And then you figured out, yeah, I can do this. And then you realize you can do it, but it's like, this isn't something for me. Have you had skills that go both ways in terms of that?
Oh, interesting. I'm trying to think. I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure on the answer to this question, because I guess once again, like, I personally don't see it as skills, because I see it just as things that I get enamored with for a little bit, do a bunch of research, look up a bunch of stuff on it, go, whoa, this is so cool, do a show and tell, and then sort of move on, right? But I don't think I ever drop any of these interests. I feel like it's like a accumulating Katamari ball of all this stuff that I will eventually get back to TM one day.
So they're all still sitting on the shelf, essentially. You haven't thrown any of them out.
Yes, essentially. So a great visual metaphor for this is actually my stacks and stacks of unbuilt Gundams.
Gunpla collector, okay.
Yeah, Yeah, this is a great visual metaphor. In fact, I still have some like forever in my virtual warehouse on HobbyLink right now.
You know, you're only a couple steps removed from then getting into Warhammer, right?
Yeah, okay, so I drew the line at Warhammer. Okay, I draw the line at Warhammer. Warhammer is way too expensive. I know what's good for me. And if I know what's good for me, it is to not touch Warhammer, because I know the moment I lay eyes on Warhammer, it's over. It's all over for me. It's Jova.
Yeah, it would be Jover. But I'm sure your community might like to see you do some mini wargaming eventually. I think that might be pretty interesting.
Yeah, maybe. I hope so. I really do hope that my community is along for the ride, no matter what I do. I feel like I've sort of established a bit of a reputation for that. Like, oh, we have no idea what she's gonna do, but whatever she does, well, guess we're here.
And on that note, how do you come up with your streaming ideas?
Honestly, I take them from everywhere. If I do have to say what the bread and butter of my streams are, it's definitely just shooting the shit, chatting. It's absolutely just chatting. Like, it's pretty much a running joke by now that Neg Nasu goes on many tangents. Every stream is a hidden zatsudan. No matter what I'm doing, I will pause it just to run my mouth.
Well, that's a little unfair, because you had that stream the other day where you were zooming around on your Hot Wheels collection, so, that's not totally fair.
Yeah, true, but also, I mean, half the stream was just me talking about other stuff while also zooming with the cars.
Listen, as long as I got to hear how, you elaborate why you didn't like Jeremy, that's all I really needed,
Listen. Some cars are just ugly, okay? But we are all entitled to our own opinions.
Listen, I gotta tell you, when you like death gripped that car and you're like, I hate ergonomic shapes, I felt a little like triggered, because ergonomic shapes are my favorite. So you and I are the complete opposite in that respect, because like, I'll give you an example. Like, when I was a kid, we used to do this thing when I was a little kid where we used to have like Lego Wars. And I would always build like little ships, the most ergonomically designed ships. And I couldn't stand if they were like uneven or like if they were asymmetric, couldn't stand it. It drove me insane. So
asymmetry is great. You have to have tasteful asymmetry. Listen. Don't you love the feelings of grip? Do you not love the feeling of gripping a Lego block, like a large Lego block, and feeling sort of like the little grooves, the little connector parts, the little circular connector parts of the Lego dig into your skin? Like that's great. It's like your hand is getting a massage. If you are gripping something ergonomic, you do not get the sharp corners. Like that does. Yes, is it comfortable to grip? I guess so. But does it feel like you are gripping something? No. I want the thing that I am gripping to fight back. And I want to feel like I am winning. The ergonomic shape makes it feel too easy. It makes it feel like it was designed to be crushed in my hands.
So, I want to let you know ahead of time that
Yes.
I'm going to make that thumbnail. I'm going to make the thumbnail you and just a quote of, I want the thing that I'm gripping to fight back. And that's gonna be the thumbnail. No context. No context. It's just that's gonna be.
You're falling into the trap. You're falling into the trap of those no context clip channels.
Except my clip is gonna be like 4 hours long. So. But we're not bearing the lead too far, because we're only 20 minutes in. So it's only 20 minutes of clickbait.
Fair enough.
When we were talking the other day, you brought up that you were doing a proposal for university, and I meant to ask you, what are you studying and why did you have to do the proposal? And I believe you mentioned it on one of your streams, and forgive me if this was like 2 years ago, so if your major changed, feel free to let me know. But I believe you mentioned on your stream you were studying comp sci.
Yes, I'm studying comp sci. And my area of expertise is HCI, human-computer interactions.
And what does that field of study involve specifically?
It's a very sort of multidisciplinary field. It's it's got sort of some cognitive neuroscience plugged into it, and it's got some mechanical engineering as well as, you know, general comp sci, right? Because it's all about sort of usability and user experience. And so when people usually think user experience and usability, they think, oh, the UI on my internet browser, web design. But it involves so much more than that, you know. It involves like the physical peripherals that you interact with. It can even be, you know, motion sensors, right? Like face tracking that is making the Neg of the Nasu move. That is also HCI. And so it's a very, very fascinating field to me because, you know, I guess my colorful background, quote unquote, my colorful background of skills, out of everything, HCI drew my attention the most because it feels the most fun. It's got the most possibilities. I mean, can you imagine all the different ways that you could move your pointer? So for my thesis, I'm not putting this in my thesis so I can talk about it, but like I had a vague idea of what if I designed a peripheral, you know, something to attach to your chair, like the handlebar of your chair, and then when you move your forearm, it controls your mouse cursor. So you can have your hands free while you're still using your mouse, right? Something like that. So HCI has a bunch of wacky stuff involved in that.
Is that also regarding like ergonomics and accessibility requirements for software and like how that works as well?
I think that can be a part of it as well, definitely. But yeah, actually it is. It definitely is. Yeah, that is part of HCI. That's part of user experience.
And I'm sure a lot of people are probably going to wonder the same question that I'm wondering right now is why computer science, you mentioned HCI seemed the most interesting of all the skills that you have, but I think a lot of people looking at it from the outset would then go on to question of, okay, she's got this, you know, eclectic assortment of skills that seemed fine-tuned to content creation, you know, visual design, all that stuff. So I'm sure there are going to be people wondering, did you look at all into pursuing graphic design when you were starting university? And is there a reason that you chose HCI over graphic design? Or was it a matter of, you know, HCI just, you know, completely like overruled all the existing skill sets you had when you found out about it and you're like, you know, full force, let's go with this?
So I have a sister who is an animator. Yes, she works on anime. She definitely does work on anime. She's actually planning on moving to Japan sometime soon to be closer to her studio. And so she's an older sister, right? She's older than me by a few years, and so I grew up sort of in her shadow in some way. Like she's great at drawing pictures, and the reason why I even started drawing pictures and doing, like, you know, visual design stuff in the first place was so that I felt like I had something to talk to her about. Because you know how siblings are, right? When you're kids, like, well, you get along so well, you whack each other with sticks in the backyard, and then one of you becomes a teenager and suddenly it's just ice cold, and you're like, but why? What happened? But you know, teenagerisms happened, and so during her teenagerism phase, I wanted to win back her affection by drawing. And so anyway, you might be wondering why I'm talking about my sister, but the reason I talk about my sister is because I saw what she had to go through with our parents and, you know, fighting all those societal expectations of how visual design, graphic design, like the arts, right? There's no money in it, there's no future in it, and I had to see her suffer through that. And I think I just thought to myself, one sibling in the family like that is enough. and that feels really bad. It feels really bad to say, but it's just, I felt like I could never measure up in my visual skills, right? Because I really, really admire her. I hugely respect her. And so any criticism from her is enough to shake me to my very core, because I guess I've still got her up on that, wow, my big sister pedestal kind of thing. Like she's so cool, she's so good at everything. And so I thought that I didn't want to pursue anything visual, because, you know, I just thought she could always do better. And it's not really like you know, she's gonna replace my job, because that's not it at all. It's just sort of like if I can't live up to her standards on this stuff, then how could I possibly call myself a professional? And I don't want the stress that comes with that. And I went into the HCI stuff because, well, I wanted to do game dev. You know, my ideal job in life is game dev. But you know what they say. Gotta choose the safe route in life. Gotta choose. Oh, sorry, I was just playing with a pen and I just dropped it on the floor. If you could hear that. You gotta choose the safe things in life, and so I chose comp sci and HCI, and I think like during the journey, I got really interested in it, and so I think it was a really good win-win for me in this situation.
Two questions stem out of that. So the first one would be, when you say that you weren't sure if you were ever going to be able to live up to your sister's expectations of what your artwork would be, or never be able to, you know, feel like you were outshining her, or, you know, forever feeling like your artwork or visual design were going to, you know, live in her shadow. Is that something, does that come from a place of, like you were saying before, like you really looked up and admired her, or did it come from a place of, you know, she gave you critique one time and then it was kind of like, I really see what she means now. Like, she was right. My art's not going to live up to, you know, the expectations that she's looking at because she's a professional animator. Did it come, like, I guess my question is, did that feedback of you feeling like you were going to forever live in her shadow if you pursued that, did that come directly from her, or is that just something that you perceived on your own because you respect your sister so much?
I think it came from myself. I did have, you know, the phases of feeling really upset about my art and all that, and like I still believe myself to like by no means be a quote unquote good artist because that's not where I put most of my time towards, right? I have unfortunately I've got the like, oh, jack of all trades, master of none thing happening for me. And so I'm not too torn up about that. I'm just happy to be able to draw the pictures and make the funny, pretty graphics that I'm able to make. I'm happy with that. But I think, yeah, the main reason why I didn't pursue it really was because I just respected my sister so much, and the version of her that lives in my brain will always, you know, find something wrong with the work that I do. And it's less of a pessimistic take on things, and it's more of a I can always do better kind of take, if you know what I mean. And so if that sort of thing is living in my brain, then I wouldn't feel comfortable pursuing any visual design as a career, because, you know, I'm just always going to be thinking I can always do better, right? And it's really hard too, because it's sort of like putting a label on a hobby and trying to sort of turn that into a career. I kind of dislike that. I've grown to dislike that.
Did you ever communicate that feeling to your sister, or is that something you kind of held close to your chest as kind of like, you know, this is why I won't pursue it, but, you know, she can never know that's, you know, kind of how I feel? Or is that something that, you know, over the years, is that something that you've talked to her about? And if that is something that you talked to her about, when you discussed that with her, you know, what was her opinion on that?
I feel like it was never really something that I talked to her about, but I feel like it was something that the both of us sort of implicitly understood, if you know what I mean, like between our interactions. And I guess like I wouldn't feel uncomfortable bringing it up to her. I think it's a conversation that we could have, but it's just I never thought that the conversation was necessary, I guess. Because our sibling relationship is very much not a very touchy-feely one. It very much feels like, you know, shit posters living under the same roof. kind of thing. Like we don't even hug each other. Like we don't really address each other by name. We're just kind of like, hey, you, and then we point at each other. Like the other day, she started calling me little man for absolutely no reason.
She sounds like she sounds like, you know, she sounds like a gremlin, just like you a little bit.
She really is. We have the same sense of humor. Some I really feel like of course, this is obvious, but I really feel like, man, we really are family. Like when I'm living at home with her, it's sort of like, yeah, okay, she's a constant, yeah, whatever, we're totally different people. But you know, even just during times when she shows up on stream and we kind of bounce off each other, or like, you know, her friends come over to visit, or pretty much like somebody else that's not us gets put in the situation, that's when I realized, oh man, we really are family.
Is it just you and her siblings? Do you have any brothers?
No, just us.
And you mentioned that she's come on stream before. So what was chat's reaction when they got to meet Neg Nasu?
What was chat's reaction? I guess you know, first it's with all the fanfare of like, whoa, it's the sister. Oh, it's the sister. Whoa, it's her. You know, and then over time, like I think they've grown to like. They've grown to really enjoy her little interludes, like, oh, there she is again. They kind of like see her as the older Neg Nasu that is more no nonsense and a little bit more unhinged, but also more grounded and logical. If that makes any sense, like think of everything you know about Neg Nasu and then sort of make that a scary, looming older sister figure that is also still silly.
So like the Pokemon evolved version of Neg Nasu, basically.
Yes, the Pokemon evolved version.
And in terms of stream ideas, have you given any consideration to doing kind of what Hololive does a little bit, where she's got a little avatar and comes on stream to pester chat with you for a couple hours, or is it kind of just like, or is she just not interested and that's just, you know, streaming is your thing, is your time. She lets you be alone with, you know, chat, and occasionally she'll poke in, but you know, there's no real interest there.
I guess that's it. Hey, streaming is my thing, and she's not interested, but she will poke in. But she does have her little avatar that she's drawn for herself.
So talking about artwork and concepts and all that stuff, so how did you come up with the funny purple wolf? You know, what about the name Neg Nasu? Where did that come from?
Oh boy. Honestly, Neg, I'm not too sure where it came from. And Nasu, I guess it came like from one day I was hanging out in a voice call with a bunch of my friends, and we all knew of Vtubers, right? And I was trying to come up with my own sort of design for my utaite stuff. And so I just thought, hey, let's do an exercise. What kind of character comes to mind when you hear my voice, right? And so because I really liked a GBF character that was very much associated with the color purple.
GBF Granblue?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up now. I don't know which one you're referencing. I only play Relink, so.
Okay. He's not in Relink, but because at the time I really liked a character that was very much associated with the color purple, they were like, Neg, you have to have a purple. You have to have purple. You must be purple.
Oh, so they associated the character with you then?
Yeah, they did, and so sort of like the rest of the character design just sort of like came along. And because I was known as a worm on a string because I kept posting worms on strings. I don't know why, okay? I've completely forgotten the context of why, but like I kept posting pictures of these funny guys that they were like, okay, you are a worm on a string. And so originally I was a nine-tailed fox with 9 of these guys as my tails.
That would have been perfect. I would have loved that. Oh my gosh. How did you go from nine-tailed worm fox to just purple wolf?
So the friend that I got to draw the model, my original model, right? She was like, absolutely not.
Did you commission her and she literally declined when you sent her the reference?
Yes, she literally declined and said, look, you I am not drawing these worms. I mean, it was in a friendly way, okay? It was said in jest.
I love that. So was it a matter of, okay, you're not going to draw the worms, so let me find a compromise?
Yeah, you're not going to draw the worms, so let me find a compromise. Because actually I had a really, really first scuff model from all the way back. if you check my song cover YouTube channel, and if you check an unlisted playlist of old VODs on YouTube, yes, very complicated unlisted playlist. There you should be able to find my very first scuff model that I made for myself.
Oh, you drew the art for the scuff model as well?
Yeah. I drew the art for the scuff model. Ah, yes, here it is. Yes. Okay, so Nasu came from the fact that I had purple hair because like an eggplant, and so I was like, oh yeah, you know, eggplant.
Oh, is Nasu eggplant in Japanese?
Yes, Nasu is eggplant in Japanese. And so this was the original concept art, that the very first.
I love that shirt. Can you please make this like the third? You can make it a 9-tailed wolf, but you need that shirt. That's perfect for you.
The hedonism shirt.
Yeah, perfect. Like the gremlin energy that radiates from this is like perfect for you.
Yeah. Actually, in many ways, my current model like, is like looking quite similar to the original concept.
You're slowly getting there.
we're slowly getting there. We are actually slowly getting there. I mean, I do find it to sort of like be a shame that I wasn't confident enough to sort of like pick up the pen and do my model straight away from the start. But I do like, you know, it's an entire arc on becoming my own person.
Well, and I guess that brings up a question now, is you've rigged this model that you're currently using. Would you feel comfortable rigging 9 worms?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. All right.
Assuming that I ever get to 9 worms.
Or whatever the worm count is. It doesn't have to be 9. So you and I, like, our relationship is mainly focused around music because we're both musicians. So, and I mainly know you for your music. But you have the cover in the background there, but looking through your YouTube channel, the last thing you posted was a year ago and was your original song. Are you taking a break from music? Because you mentioned, I think, earlier in our conversation that you were kind of hesitant when you said music a little bit. So are you burnt out on music? Is that kind of the reason why? Because I believe you did some group covers before. Well, after you released your original song, if I'm remembering correctly. I think you posted them on Twitter. Are you taking a break from music?
It's less so taking a break, and it's more so I've got a year-long art block when it comes to music.
Meaning,
I feel like
you don't know what to cover?
Well, it's more like I've got a bunch of works in progresses that are forever stuck in purgatory. Like I've even got 2 covers that are like fully completed, fully mixed, and I've just been sitting on them because I can't bring myself to make the music video for them because it just doesn't sound perfect to me. You know, it doesn't sound the way I want it to sound. And I even did like Neg Nasu November, right, a few years back, to be like, okay, I'm trying to fight the perfectionism. Like, this is whatever I can pull out of my ass in whatever short amount of time. Like, no, November is the challenge. And then even that exercise wasn't enough to fight the perfectionism. And I think like, I think I just felt stuck, you know, because I wanted to call myself a singer back then, but I guess like I never felt like I truly sing well. and I know that sounds strange, right? I when you listen to those covers, but there are so many amazing singers out there in the VTuber sphere, and I don't know, I felt for a long time I felt, what new thing am I bringing to the table? What am I bringing to the table? I didn't feel like I was bringing anything new to the table, and I guess I'm not sure how to put this. It's just I've just been in a rut, I guess, because I wasn't able to find the time to like truly dedicate to completing a cover, because like with my covers, I don't just send it off to a mixer, right? And send it off to an illustrator and send it off to a video editor and say, yep, that's done. All right, time to wait for the thing to come back. I oversee every single step of the process, and I actually haven't had a music video on my channel at all that was edited by anyone else. Funny that. Because I I guess I never saw the necessity to commission someone else for a music video. Because one, it's so hard to find someone to commission who's not already closed and they're going to take forever, and I'm impatient, so I want it now. And two, they're expensive, right? And also three, like, I don't want... A lot of sort of music video artists I know out there, some of them are my friends and some of them are strangers. If it's a stranger, if I can do it myself, why commission a stranger? You know, why not commission a friend? But then I look at my friends and I'm like, oh, well, I'm not exactly a big VTuber, and because MV artists are so in high demand, they've got commissions coming in from companies, you know, large indie VTubers, and so it's sort of like, I don't want to take up a slot that they could be using to potentially sort of further their own revenue and further their own popularity, if you know what I mean. So it's kind of like, I mean, if I can do it anyway, and if I've got this moral dilemma with commissioning my friends, then... well, there you go. Just do it yourself.
With the difference between you commissioning somebody you don't know, but whose work, let's say you find somebody on Twitter who you're not friends with, but whose work you really like, is the part of you that doesn't commission that person kind of driven by the stuff we talked earlier of like, I already know I can do this, so why not just do it myself? And is there a fear there for you of, well, what if I don't get something back that exactly matches like what I have in my head when I can just create what's already in my head?
Exactly. This exactly. this exactly. It's a mixture of what if I don't like what they make, versus oh my god, the thing that they do that looks so fun, I want to try.
And have you given any thought to, because I know you said before you were trying to fight off that perfectionism, and in relinquishing some of that control, have you given any thought to, you know, basically killing your darling, right? And saying, okay, well, even if I don't like what they give me, at least it's something at the end of the day I know I'll be able to use because their work is good. Or do you have the thought of, well, even if I like what they give me, at the end of the day, the thought's always going to rest in the back of my mind that it doesn't look exactly the way I want it to look, and I should have just done it myself.
I think that comes like it's a bit of a two-prong answer, once again. So on one hand, you know, yes, it is going to rest in the back of my head if it's not exactly the way I want it, and if it's not sort of, if I feel like, oh, I could have just done this myself and I would have had a lot of fun with it. If that person is a friend, who once again I don't commission for the reasons I mentioned before, right? Then I'd be like, oh, you know what, but this was a collaboration piece between me and a friend. That's special to me, right? But if it's a stranger that I'm commissioning, I can appreciate their work on the level of an artist, but like, and I feel really, really bad for saying this, you know, there are so many amazing artists out there. It just doesn't have the same sentimental value to me. So, and who am I to that person except for just a client, right? Like, we have a purely professional relationship. This person made a product, sent it to me, and we will never talk again unless I give them more money, right? And so it leaves me feeling a little bit empty, I guess, on the inside, because this could have been something that I poured my love and my heart into, something that I oversaw all the small details for, chosen to take things out, chosen to put things in, even if I blow out the scope entirely, you know, whereas something that could have been a labor of love or a collaboration between two people to form some sort of like a sentimental product of, oh, we worked on this together, friends, you know, it's sort of got kind of that, or somewhat, I commissioned someone else. Why? Convenience. That's why. And that doesn't feel very good.
Well, it sounds like a lot of what you enjoy about it is being able to put the, you know, the parts of yourself into the products that you put out there, right? In terms of commissioning your friends, I guess the question remains of, at what point would the imposter syndrome, I'll call it, because I don't know what else to coin it as, at what point would the imposter syndrome kind of fade away for you in terms of commissioning your friends? Is it like number of Twitch followers? Is it you being affiliated with an agency? Or is there any point where you feel like you would be comfortable directly commissioning a friend to do that kind of work for you?
That's really rough. I think if it's a point that I feel comfortable is if the cover or if the song itself is very, very special for a very, very special occasion. But once again, if it's a special occasion, then it feels like I should do it myself. And thus we are stuck in a circular loop. I mean, I do want to go back to that point before about how I said, you know, like it like I would feel disappointed if I commissioned somebody else, a stranger. I understand like that could have potentially come off as me like sort of disparaging others who commission people, or sort of me disparaging others' work and being like, "Bleh, I could do a better job." When that's like definitely not the case, right? That's not the case. Like the way that I approach things like these, like I am a very, 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 very sentimental person, and so like I like to, especially because I'm a hobbyist, right? Like I'm not pursuing this as a job, and if I know that I have the skills to do something, it's sort of like I will beat myself up in my head to be like, "Oh man, it's just a hobby. There was no reason for you to go out of your way to do something like that. Why couldn't you have just, you know, cobbled something together? It makes it less special if it's someone else who doesn't care about you, yada 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 yada," and stuff like that. And so I come at this from a very, very, very different mindset, right? There are definitely a lot of great artists and MV artists out there who I would die and jump at the chance to commission. You know what I mean? Their work is very, very, very good. But once again, that imposter syndrome kicks in where it's sort of like, are my vocals, is the stuff I put out even worth that? You know? And once again, has to be a special occasion. If I do want to shell out for something like that, or if I do want to sort of bite the bullet and be like, hey, this thing deserves extra love and care. But once again, what is love and care? Is it throwing more money at it? Is it throwing a more impressive skill set at it? Or is it painstakingly crafting it yourself, even if it's a little bit jankier? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. And a lot of people draw the line of that at very, very different places, right? Whereas, you know, I am a control freak in that regard. I have a vision. I don't always pull off the vision as exactly as I would like to. And I really wish that I would be more comfortable with sort of relinquishing things to others, but stubborn. Stubborn.
Well, and I have to ask, because I know that question's probably going to come up for people that are watching this that know you. Where is that line in terms of the creation of your original song, for instance? Because, you know, you have it on Spotify and it's Neg Nasu with Zomu, right? So Zomu was the one that did the beat for the song. You did the art and the lyrics and all that stuff and the vocals. So I guess my question there is, why did you feel comfortable relinquishing the musicianship to Zomu instead of doing it yourself, as opposed, like, you know, like we were just talking about?
I do want to note that, like, I'm not comfortable with writing lyrics because words not good. So I actually I wrote like an entire essay and I gave it to Hoshino Meguri, who is like another VTuber, and I commissioned the lyrics off of her. And so for a similar reason why I commissioned Zomu for, like, you know, the beat, the melody, because I guess I'm not a songwriter. I have no experience and I have zero confidence in that stuff. I haven't studied that stuff, and I guess the desire to have a song out there was stronger than my desire to sort of like spend a lot of time honing these skills, which I understand. I get puts me in a little bit of a hypocritical position, right? Sort of like, oh, okay, why are these skills okay to commission other people for, but other stuff not? But I guess it really does just come down to, can I do it? If I can't, then yeah, sure, commission someone else. If you can, even if it's jankier, then why? You know?
Well, you're essentially telling me that it comes down to evaluating your own strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
But I guess the larger question there is that you mentioned you've been into the Utaite stuff since you were a kid, and musicianship is a huge part of that. So I guess I'm coming back to, why is musicianship one of the, I'll say, I know you don't like me using the word, but I'll say skills again, that you decided to pick up? Was it just because there was no interest there, or?
So when I was a very young kid, I wanted to be a singer. When I was a very, very, very young kid, I wanted to be a singer, and I also had a brief K-pop phase where I was auditioning left and right for K-pop companies, because K-pop was the big thing, was the big thing, like early 2010s. I'm talking about that period, right? And I did in fact get a call back at one of the auditions, and they did in fact say, "Oh wow, we liked you," and then I got told that I did not fit the visual style that they were looking for, which means to say I was too average looking.
And was there never a part of you that was interested in the musicianship aspect as well? Because at least for me, when we were both working on our VTuber activities, a lot of my imposter syndrome came as a result of, like, at least in the male VTuber space, a lot of these male VTubers are like, hey, let me produce my own song and write my own song and do the vocals on my own song and then mix it and master it and then put it out there for the world. And at least for me, like, it, my desire to further myself as a musician kind of came as a result of, well, if the standard for, the male VTubers that I follow around are, hey, we're musicians, singers, and songwriters, I guess that's kind of the standard that I need to live up to. Did you ever feel that at all, or was it, or was the aspect of you that wanted to be a singer, was that just so strong that it kind of, overrode everything else?
I guess my hesitation when it comes to sort of musicianship is I have a very deep sense of shame. And that must be really surprising, right? Because like I'm really readily, openly talking about things, and I really, really do like to talk about things, elaborate on things, articulate my feelings, armchair other people's feelings, and talk about uncomfortable topics. I feel like I would like to say that I navigate those situations with relative ease, and I draw pictures, right? I cover songs, I draw pictures and all that. But when it comes to musicianship, writing lyrics, writing a melody, I feel like it taps into a deeper part of earnesty, a deeper earnesty that I have tried for years to fight, to bring out, but for a long time I just haven't been able to. Creative writing is one of my biggest blocks, and creative writing that includes music, a melody, lyrics. I feel like it's too earnest in a way, because in a conversation, in a discussion, I can sort of elaborate on everything. I can ramble my way in and out of situations. I can weave my opinions in with fancy verbiage to sort of explain myself. Whereas with music, and songwriting, what you see is what you get, and it's so incredibly vulnerable. And I really respect people who are able to put themselves forward in songwriting, and in, I guess, what you mentioned, musicianship, right? It's a level of vulnerability that I hope to one day achieve, because I did play instruments. Like in high school, I played the euphonium, I played the trumpet as well. I've forgotten how to play them by now, but muscle memory is probably going to come back to me on those. For a brief period of time, I played the piano, but then I got scared off by my scary Russian piano teacher who slapped my fingers because she's like, "No, curve your hands." and so I cried, and I never went back there ever again.
On that subject, when we talk about you having this sort of perfectionism in terms of your craft, and being able to, do your song covers, the art, the animation, the motion graphics, all of that. You've done work for me before, and I had a stroke nearly looking at it because it was so impressive when I opened the damn file.
Oh my god! When you said I had a stroke, I was like, oh my god! I killed a man.
The good kind of stroke. The good kind of stroke.
Okay.
But people that are watching this that aren't as in tune with the amount of work that all of that takes, when you say that you don't want to outsource aspects of that production, can you kind of explain to, I'll say, put it in layman's terms, right? Because you're not just talking to me, right? I'll say put it in layman's terms of, if somebody comes up to you and asks, Neg, I need you to make a music video for me, start to finish. I want you to do the vocals. I want you to do the lyrics. I want you to do the recording. I want you to do the art and the motion graphics. What's the process for you if you come across, a cover like that where you're like, okay, here's one of the covers that I want to do, and how much work does that actually entail?
All right, here we go. So because I do not make instrumentals, assuming we want the whole instrumental shebang, first I will look at the song and I'll be like, I'll try to sing it a few times through. Is it in my range? Can I comfortably sing it? If I can't comfortably sing it, if I can just barely comfortably sing it, okay, I'll fix that in comping. so there we go. So I'll find a musician first to be like, usually I work with Project Epsilon, good friend of mine, and so I'll be like, hey, make me an instrumental, and I'll either pay them, but Epsi and I we're usually like collab partners, so he just does it for me pro bono. We make something cool together, and I like that. It's got the spirit of just creativity. But I'm not opposed to paying him for his work. If he asks for it, I will readily slap down money for him.
Don't say that. He might watch this and tell you to back pay him.
He's not stingy like that, FZ. No. Okay.
Well, let's say you get the instrumental, and then what?
Okay, I get the instrumental, and then first thing I do is I go into my DAW, my digital audio workspace, and I start recording. Yeah, it's just like that. And so usually when you think of recording, you think of song, you think of the melody, you think the singer just sings the melody and that's done, right? Generally people will be like, oh yeah, it's a 3-minute song. Yeah, how hard is it to record 3 minutes? Well, it is quite difficult. You have to make sure that the sound quality of every single line you record is consistent, and sometimes there will be clipping, especially if it's a song that you do a lot of quiet whispering in, that sort of crescendos into loud belting. There are a lot of retakes that have to be done in order to sort of make the audio balanced, right? Make sure that the quiet singing isn't too close to the microphone, making sure that the loud singing isn't too close to the microphone, and it clips. And clipping, for those of you who don't know, is basically when the audio gets so loud that if you look at the waveform, it's just a square. It's just a square. You know how audio waveforms are usually squiggles, right? When it becomes a square, that's when you get sort of that like really grainy sound, like,
You can kind of hear it through the speakers a little bit.
Yeah. That kind of sound you hear. It's like the stereotypical gamer headset mic sound. Right.
And how many layers do you typically end up on? Like, let's say it's a 3-minute song. Let's say it's a Vocaloid song by some of these producers that love to add like 500 gajillion layers and background sounds and all this other stuff. On a let's just say it's a typical Vocaloid cover. How many layers of vocal tracks do you typically end up with, and how many hours do you typically pour into both recording it and mastering it to a point where you're like, okay, this is ready to export, and now I'm ready to go work on the artwork?
Oh geez. I can say a single session of that can easily take upwards of like, I'd say 10 to 20 hours. it really could. If I'm fast, maybe I can leave it at like, 5 to 10 hours. But for something like my Lost Ones Weeping cover, that easily took me 10 to 20 hours. Somewhere in between there. I haven't been counting, but pretty much, you've got your main melody, and also, you have to do a bunch of vocal comping. I like to also record unison upper octave and unison lower octave as well, if I can. Just to give it that nice sort of layering effect, and I record 2 takes of the upper octave and 2 takes of the lower octave, just so that the double up can give it some more audio space. I pan it both ways, and then upper harmonies and lower harmonies, essentially. So maybe generally around like 10 tracks if we're being generous on how little tracks we need, because there's chants in the song, so it can easily end up at like 15 tracks, because there's a lot of overlap vocals that you have to deal with. And then for each of those vocals, I then have to go through each of those vocal tracks and sort of like silence all of the digital noise that's in them, sometimes manually if it doesn't work. And of course I have to tune, because no human sings perfectly, okay? It's not auto-tune, it's manual tune. It's manually tuning, like just like little tiny touch-ups, right? Just so I don't have to like record the same thing 10,000 times. I think somebody is coming into my room. Okay, no, I'm good. Okay, no, I'm good. I just heard like thumping outside. Right, so essentially, like, that in itself is the recording process, right? Treating the vocal and everything. And then the mix is, oh my god, the mix, it takes ages. It's putting on effects, it's making sure that the singing blends in with the instrumental well, and there's a lot of tiny little bits and pieces of tweaking. So, once that's all done, however many hours that takes, usually my ears hurt by the end of it, and I'll be sending it to my friend to be like, does this sound better? Or this one sound better? Does the first one sound better? Or the second one? First one better? Second one? Like I'm a freaking optometrist, but for ears. And then they'll be like, Neg, this sounds the same. And I'll be like, nah, I cut the high frequencies by a fraction in the second one. You can hear it at these particular timestamps where things are not as sharp. And they're like, okay, I hear it, but like, why? But like, why? Why do you care? And so
the average person doesn't typically understand that.
yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. And then when I pressure them for an answer at gunpoint, they're like, okay, I like 1 better. And I'll be like, but I liked 2 better. And then I'll have to sort of reconcile, like, what? Why? What's wrong with this mix? It doesn't sound right. It doesn't. But I guess that's also my inexperience, right? That's my inexperience with audio engineering. I'm sure that once I do more of it, I'll be faster.
And how do you did you kind of have to learn through like YouTube tutorials and stuff on like how to get it how to get your vocals mixed the same way as like as close as possible to the original song? Like what was the process that you had to go through to learn that? Because I know mixing is one of the things that I really struggle with.
Oh god, no, I do not use YouTube tutorials. YouTube tutorials suck. No offense, right? Because mixing is something that's really, really hard to teach. I was coached through it by a friend of mine who does audio engineering at uni. Well, who did an audio engineering course at any point. And so I was coached through it, where I coached through each of the effects. And then over time, it sort of just becomes like a general intuition kind of thing, because it's a lot like art, right? At a certain point, once you know the tools that you have, once you know what colors are where, the rest of it is kind of just up to you to sort of learn and take wisdom from different places and sort of feel it out for yourself.
Well, let's say you have the song recorded, mixed, and mastered. Then you go off to do the artwork. How long does it typically take you to do foreground, character, background, all that stuff in terms of doing the artwork? Because I imagine you have to separate out in layers, so that way when you do the motion graphics, things don't get all screwed up.
It really depends on what song it is. I really like going for the animatic route when it comes to my music videos, so I typically don't like to just draw one illustration if it's a full illustration. So full completed illustrations for me, I think they take about, if I were to work on a full illustration non-stop and say I wanted to work on an illustration to the best of my ability, I'd say it would take me about a week. Probably less than a week, probably like 4 days, 3 to 4 days if I was working on it and that was the only thing I was working on. But because I like to go the animatic route for a lot of my music videos, right, that generally becomes a lot more involved of a process because I end up having to storyboard, and the storyboarding process itself can take several hours of me just like picking and choosing. And then each individual like storyboard screen to draw that wouldn't be a full illustration, but that would still take like the good half of a day. So maybe I can get through like 2 storyboard scenes in a day just for illustration. And sort of like putting it together on After Effects. Well, actually, motion graphics doesn't take me very long. Funny that. It's the rendering process that takes incredibly long. It's the rendering process that takes very, very long. I usually have to pre-render a bunch of stuff, and so while I'm pre-rendering a bunch of stuff, I'll be drawing more. So I think in total, the motion graphics would take me about, I think also 3 to 4 days.
When you say you're pre-rendering, are you just making like pre-comps and then rendering those out and then re-importing them?
Yes, pretty much, yes.
So in terms of the actual motion graphics and stuff, do you try to keep it as close to, because you mentioned storyboarding, are you trying to keep it as close to the spirit of the original song as you can? Because I know, some artists and musicians and stuff, when you're looking at like covers of King, for instance, they'll do artwork of the throne and then the Vtuber on the throne and then the finger in the mouth. And you've done that before. But would you say in general, you're trying to keep it kind of in that same vibe of where it's as close to the spirit of the original song? Or do you kind of go with your own storyboard?
I think if it's for a cover like King, then I'm like, yeah, I'll keep it as close to the original as possible because I don't really have any visions for that song. It's just a fun song, right? It's just a fun song. But for other songs, right, like say for example my Lost Ones Weeping or even Haru no Tonari, and maybe even my original music video, I try to bring my own flavor to it, right? I try to sort of
it really depends on the song
lyrics.
then.
Yeah, it depends on the song, and if it's something that I'm bringing my own flavor to, well, I try to tell a story through my interpretation of the lyrics, and I try to tell a story of how, this is what I've been through, and I like to hide little secrets in it.
On the note of artwork and all this other impressive stuff that you do, you mentioned on stream recently that you have a lot of difficulty with traditional art and that you're not a traditional artist, and you went on a little bit of a spiel about that. It was fun to listen to. But for people that are out here that are not artists, and don't really understand what the difference is between digital art and traditional art and why you would have difficulty with one and be so proficient in the other, can you kind of explain the difference from your perspective on like why you have such difficulty with traditional versus digital?
I am not a very precise person. I manhandle a lot of things. And with traditional art, I think you have to have a very steady hand. You don't have the eraser in traditional art is not as good as the eraser in digital art. Like, you can always go over things to your carpal tunnel's delight in digital art. Like, the RGB pixels are there for you to shape and to mold and to paint over, to repaint as much as you want, right? But in traditional, once you slap down that blob of blue, everything underneath it is gone. You have no layers. You have to be very, very careful. You have to be very decisive. And also color mixing, especially with paints, very, very different. So because I think it's also because of the way that CSP has its algorithm structured as well with how it mixes colors. So I use Clip Studio Paint, right? And people have often bragged on how the colors mix in Clip Studio Paint. So they work on a multiplicative, not multiplicative, but there's something to do with the math in the values that makes it different from mixing real paints. Which is why I was like, why can't I get aqua from mixing blue and yellow? What is going on? Right? When everyone's like, mix white, put white in there, put white in there. And I'm like, what?
So the color theory is a little bit different between CSP and traditional artwork.
Right. Essentially. And I do have to say there are aspects of traditional art that are a lot easier compared to digital art, which is that texture is built into traditional art when you sort of like make your brush strokes, when you color using color pencils on paper, that's already texture. Whereas in digital art, adding texture has to be a conscious choice. And like just draw a square on a piece of paper and then draw a square on your screen. One of them is gonna look nicer, one of them is gonna look tastier than the other, and that's gonna be the one you drew on paper because it's got the texture of the paper underneath it. It's got the texture of the lead, it's got the texture of your hand pressing down into the screen. Your monitor, your LED monitor is not gonna have any of that.
The fact that you described artwork as tasty is pretty funny.
Tasty? No, you just see something and you're like, ooh, crunchy, but not for eat.
Oh, like okay, like texturally. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm not an artist myself, so I was curious about that. You might laugh at this next question, but it's been burning in my chest ever since you and I met, and I feel like I've been like completely out of the loop on this joke, so I need clarification. All right. The Easter Island statues that your community uses all the time and that you use all the time, like what's the joke there?
Okay, so this is actually a bit of an old joke. We don't really use the Easter Island statues anymore because unfortunately the iconography has become so commonplace and popular that it feels very hard to keep the in-joke in. But pretty much when I first debuted in late 2020, this was back when VTubers were still looked at as a novelty, right? And so there was still a sort of expectation of a way that a VTuber should be. And so I don't know why, but I kept ending my tweets with the freaking emote, with the freaking emoji, with the freaking Moyai statue, and I just thought it was funny. I just thought it was the funniest looking guy. Like it's just a stone face, What an expression! It says everything. And so people thought that it was strange that like, oh look at this girl VTuber, she's using a Moyai statue. That's so funny. And so people they started making fun of me with it. Because it looked esoteric at the time, I guess.
So that's how it became a running joke. Okay.
Yes,
I was wondering about that because I'm like, what's the joke here? I don't get it. Made me feel like such a boomer.
No. Like genuinely, like in hindsight, it wasn't really that funny. But it's one of those you had to be there. You had to see it happen with your own eyes.
Yeah. So back to your school stuff a little bit, because we didn't really talk much about it. You mentioned the other day that you're working on this proposal. Mm-hmm. I think you said it was for your HCSI stuff, but what are you going to do for that proposal? Like, what are you writing about in your thesis?
I'm looking into how if we change the way that somebody interacts with a computer, right? Can it help sort of neuro diverse people with ADHD, people with executive dysfunctions, can it help them stay more motivated if sort of the interactions that they have with their technology is more embodied? So like, say for example, you don't have to lift your hand from the keyboard to use the mouse, and yada yada yada. Does that help with executive dysfunction?
And how do you go about testing that so that you have something to write like about in a thesis? Do you like, is it do you hypothesize that it's going to help these people, and then you get a sample size or a group of people together that identify as neurodivergent? Like, how do you, what's your methodology behind testing, like whether or not that's effective?
I think right now I'm still in the pre-research phase, so I'm still writing my proposal for that. But I'm thinking, right, what I would do is I would end up developing my own sort of like unique interaction method that is a pool from all of the data that I've gathered from all of my pre-research, and sort of I would compare and contrast levels of motivation by giving them tasks to complete with that new system versus mouse and keyboard, on top of, referencing it with other literature. It's not exactly too clear right now because I am still in the beginning stages of it. My topic could change entirely. I have no idea where I'm going, but hopefully, my proposal gets accepted and we go from there.
Well, you didn't mention this, and as this goes into another question that I had, and you didn't mention this in your list of hobbies, so I'm a little bit disappointed, but I watched a bit of you showing off your Hot Wheels collection. Is that another hobby, or is that just like, things that you take out of Neg's wonderful bag of mysteries? Like, where did that start?
I went to the store 2 weeks ago.
Was that for a stream? Was it for literally a stream bit, or were you like, today I want some Hot Wheels?
It was today I go to the store and I wonder what is at the store. I go to the toy section and I'm like, whoa, kids these days are eating so good. Whoa, Hot Wheels? Wait, these little cars look so good. They'd be such good drawing references.
Okay, so it ties back to one of your original hobbies then. You were going to use them as drawing references then.
Yeah, but it was a cope. I just wanted to play with Hot Wheels.
Okay, that's premium cope. I didn't see. Did you draw Jeremy on stream because he's your favorite?
I did not draw Jeremy. I did draw another car on stream last week. It was awful. Once again, the traditional art stream where I painted and repainted the same car over and over again, and then I sent it to space.
Your streams are wild. I don't know how you come up with this stuff, but you do.
It just happens. I just go the route of what I think will be the most fun. I genuinely do not think that my streams are like all that different from how most streamers handle their streams though.
So there's not like, would you say there's not like an elaborate planning process, or is it just like, hey, we're going to do a Zatsu, but I need something to talk about and something visually interesting for them to watch while we do the Zatsu? Or is it like, do you do a lot of pre-planning for your streams, or is it like, hey, I'm looking at my stream schedule for the week. There's going to be 3 Zatsus, but they need something visually stimulating to look at while we talk, or how do you go about that?
I think for my stream schedules weekly, so now I've settled into quite a good rhythm. Before I used to rack my brains over, what am I going to stream this week? It has to be fun. But now, I have one weekly karaoke where I just sing. I have one weekly sketchbook stream because I've decided, this year I want to fill out an entire sketchbook and we're going to sort of do it together on stream. I have one stream dedicated to a long-running game series. I usually like to play a lot of indie games. Usually I like to play some like more philosophical games so I can go on tangents about those. Play a bunch of indie games, and one day for just question mark whatever the heck I feel like, and that's my minimum. And if there's an extra day, I'll just find something to fill it. I guess for the most part, like the way that I come up with my streams, it really is just what I think would be fun at the time, right?
Well, related to that, is a very serious question I have for you. So you mentioned offhand in one of your streams that you attacked someone because you look like your favorite character in a dating sim. I need you to elaborate on that.
I was a child. I was a child, alright? Listen, I told you I was a weird kid growing up, okay? And this was one of my weird kid tendencies. I went to an all-girls school, alright? And so, there was this time when I got really hooked onto this particular dating sim. I shan't say which, because I do not want to go down that rabbit hole again. But pretty much, like, I liked the nerdy glasses character who's a little bit of a weenie, you know? And so, our school, my all-girls school, had a collaboration with an all-boys school once, and this guy was a friend of a friend. So a friend of a friend that I go to the girls' school with, and so I saw them talking, and I was like, oh, wow, he looks exactly like that character that I like. And then I saw that, like, he was, you know, being jokingly bullied by one of my other friends. She was kind of like poking at him and all that, and I'm like, whoa, he's a weenie. I love that. And trying to join in on the joking bullying, me being socially awkward, I may have gone too far, and the guy was scared of me, so he ran off. But I thought that was, oh boy, this is fun, so I chased him.
So you're basically telling me you inadvertently made yourself into the delinquent girl anime trope, is what you're telling me?
Yes, essentially.
Okay, all right.
And there was a time when he like ducked down underneath his hoodie to hide, and then a bit of his shirt rode up on his back, and I'm like, oh, haha, wouldn't it be funny if I poked that patch of skin? And I did, and that was probably not good. That would be very not good if we were not teenagers.
Are you guys still friends?
Oh, me and the girl that was friends with him.
Yeah, or you and him, yeah.
Oh, me and the girl that was friends with him. Yeah, we're friends.
That's funny. Subsequent question came from one of your streams.
Yes.
Did you ever learn to drive?
Listen, I have tried. Driving is terrifying, and also, I have booked lessons before. I have gone on those lessons. I still have my learner's license. It is okay. It is okay to have a learner's license, okay? It is okay to not know how to drive in Australia.
Are you telling that to me, or are you telling that to you?
I am telling that to you. The general audience of whomever may this concern. Whomever this may concern. I mean, look, eventually I want to learn how to drive, okay? I know, I need to know how to drive. I need to learn how to drive. But driving is really scary.
I was curious about that because I looked back at one of your streams because you were talking about having to take public transport to get to work and being like, I think you said like 30 minutes late, and you take the express bus and you were 40 minutes early. And I'm like, and then you were talking about, you're like, I need to learn how to drive so I can get to work. So I'm like, I need to follow up with her and ask if she's learned how to drive.
I'm sorry, I still haven't learned how to drive.
Listen, you're lucky that you don't live in America because we have no public transportation, so you would be driving.
I feel like that is what you call trial by fire. Like if I lived in America, I would have been forced to learn how to drive. I feel like I need someone to force me.
Yeah, you would have been forced to learn how to drive. Oh, also in one of your streams, you mentioned you should be getting another you wanted to get another camera for your hand cam.
Yes. So
that brought up the question of what hardware are you using for your motion tracking? Are you using an iPhone or something?
Yes, I'm using an iPhone. Generally, I don't like Apple products, but the AR-Kit face tracking tool is just too good. It's too good.
So you're using iPhone with VTube Studio and VBridger connected?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. Wow. You've got everything there.
That's what I did. That's what I did. Okay, I was just curious because I know some VTubers and obviously like facecam streamers use like DSLRs, and you mentioned that there maybe a DSLR laying around, and I'm assuming that's probably what you were using for your hand cam. Is that correct?
Oh no, I'm using like a shitty like USB webcam for my hand cams right now. You can see all the artifacting everywhere.
The quality didn't look too great, but I was like, I wonder what she's using for that. So we had a little bit of a discussion yesterday about gachikois, which for those who don't know is basically like obsessive fans that donate a bunch of money and stuff like that. And you also say that when we were talking before that you don't do GFE, which is called girlfriend experience, which is for anyone that doesn't know what that is, basically you're sitting behind a screen pretending to be your chat's virtual girlfriend essentially.
Yeah, essentially.
Is there a reason that you don't engage in GFE or encouraging gachikoi behavior? Like, is it a matter of it makes you uncomfortable, or is it something else? Because I know for a lot of VTubers that's like the way of like instant success, right? I mean, if they're cultivating an audience that's like that, it's it becomes very easy for a lot of people to kind of see that kind of instant success. So I'm curious as to why you have elected not to do that.
There's a lot of reasons. I will start off by answering your question of how you say that like I quote unquote operate my community differently. I think I've been told that I have a unique way of interacting with my community, but I also do want to acknowledge that there are probably a lot of other VTubers out there who also sort of take my approach, and it's just that I guess people don't really look for them. And so the reason why I don't do like GFE, and I don't really sort of what's that word?
Like entertain it?
Not exactly entertain it. Encourage? Yeah, that's the word. The reason that I don't encourage it is because I'm doing this as a hobby, right? And so at a certain point, I did want to be a full-time VTuber. I did want to do full-time content creation because I really, really love this stuff. But then because, it's the catch-22, it stresses me out so much that I didn't want to see other VTubers. I didn't want to see everyone. I didn't want to see everyone potentially as competition. That's no way to live, because when you're an online entity, right, so to speak, an online entity, and your entire product is your personality itself, the product is you, right? All of your activities, every little thing that you say, every little facet of yourself that you present out there, your hobbies, who you interact with, your activity, the amount of time you are online even, like that is, I have seen that scrutinized before. I have seen the effects of people micromanaging and calculating every single little thing, and that's not what I want for myself. I actually had like a huge crisis of faith, I think like 2 years down the line, because I was thinking, do I really want this? Do I really want this? And I think you had like, I looked at the interview question list, and you had some other questions that sort of bleed into this. So I'll save the stories for those. But essentially, right, I'm staunchly a hobbyist. I don't want to go full-time into this because I know what it does to people. I see what it does to people, and I don't want to turn something that I really enjoy doing into a career. So I guess that's also the reason why, you say a lot of people see instant success in marketing towards gachikois and quote unquote parasocial clout chasing, right? And it seems like a lot of emotional labor, because essentially it turns what should be a creative hobby into a customer service job, where you have to greet everybody with a smile, even if they're not necessarily nice to you, and you have to tell lies that sound nice, even if you don't necessarily want to tell those lies. And it's just, I guess, some people, maybe it makes some people happy, right? Like, I am absolutely not disparaging the people who do just want to go online and pretend to be people's girlfriend, because that makes you feel desired, it makes you feel wanted. Like there was actually a huge portion of time where I felt like my community didn't love me, or like, wait, that sounds really weird. How about this? Like, I don't want my community to love me. All right, I'm just a funny guy on the internet doing my funny stuff. However, I want them to appreciate me. And so, because I saw a lot of those other VTubers out there with the gachikois, you know, and everyone being parasocial with them, being like, oh my god, I love you, or you're so cute, yes, we will dominate the world for you, we'll kill someone if you ask us to. And because I didn't feel the same kind of appreciation coming from my community, I thought that I was just not a good VTuber. I thought that I was not a good content creator, because if I was, then why don't I have that sort of fanfare? Why don't I have that sort of love? What am I doing wrong? And then it turns out it took me a long time to realize I just wasn't pushing for it. And if you don't push for that, then you don't get that in return. And so I absolutely understand the people who don't engage in it just for clout chasing. I absolutely understand if people just engage in it, you know, for emotional validation, right? Because it feels good to feel loved. It feels good to feel wanted. But also there is the acknowledgement that you definitely are sort of putting on the flirting. I'm sorry, I kept saying to answer your question, I will say this and that. And then in the end, I'm not even answering your question. Okay, the reason I do not do it is because I guess that is just not me, right? It's just not me. Like I will say that I love my friends. I will like, you know, hug them and appreciate them, but not even with my friends, I don't really go ham on the whole flirting thing. And so I like to treat my community, I think it's because I'm small enough to still be able to do so. I like to treat my community as if we were friends. Perhaps, you know, less than friends, more than acquaintances. Like we're a little uni club, so to speak. We're a little clubhouse, and I'm just the owner of the clubhouse, and I'm just here to facilitate discussions and sort of do funny things on screen. It actually makes me really happy to see members of my community interacting between each other, because I like to discuss things on stream, right? And a lot of the stuff that I like to talk about on stream won't necessarily be comfortable topics for a lot of people. And I think it's just the brand of content that I go for is different from whoever does GFE, because GFE is a fun fantasy, you know, it's an idealist escape from reality, and that in itself is valid too. But for me, what I'm selling is, I guess like some might argue it's even worse. Because if you think about it, right, like I'm kind of selling this idea of, oh, you have a friend in me. But like it is true though. Like I've told my community time and time again, if they are struggling with something, feel free to DM me. If I don't get back to you, I'm probably busy at the moment, but like, because I see the regulars, I see them come in, I ask them about their day, they tell me about their day, and we do get into deep philosophical discussions a lot that I do prompt. And the kinds of games that I like to play on stream are sort of like more philosophical games. And come on, I do music, I do art, and you can't really talk broadly about art or talk about music beyond, oh wow, that looks nice, oh wow, that sounds nice, without getting a little bit uncomfortable, because art is a reflection of the creator's will, right? It's a reflection of the creator's values and what they were going through at the time. I mean, sure, you have your, like, you know, sparkly anime girls that are just cute for the sake of being cute, and you also have your, you know, bubblegum pop, and that's fine too, but you know what I'm saying, right? When it comes to art. And especially because, you know, I do want to be a game dev IRL, and I do really like to play philosophical games. It just sort of feels disingenuous with the way that I engage with my community. If, you know, we are talking about all of these potentially heavy topics, and I'm trying my best to sort of talk about them and respect my community, that if I were to pretend to be their girlfriend, it would feel very, very disrespectful, and I can't find it in myself to do that. And getting back to the part where I said what I might be doing might be a little bit worse is I do acknowledge that right now, I might be huffing some copium and saying that my community is small enough that I recognize every single name, that I recognize I remember details about everyone, that right now the relationship is still social. I don't think it's parasocial just yet. Because the definition of parasocial means that like the other person doesn't care about you or the other person doesn't know that you exist, right? Especially like if they're playing a girlfriend character, like that's something else completely because the character itself doesn't exist. But I like to stream as a person. Yes, I am a purple dog in real life. I mean, you know, the values and the words that I say, I like to have them be real, and I like to have my feelings be real. And so I would still view, at the size that I am, my relationship with my community is still social, albeit imbalanced. I will definitely say that there is definitely an imbalance. I can't ignore that. But, you know, just because I'm at the level of, hey, if you're going through something, I can try to offer my insight. And if you really need help, you can feel free to email or DM me. Of course, if it's just for nothing, I will most likely ignore you and tell you, hey, please post that in the server. So once again, getting back to the whole what I'm doing might be a little worse. I'm saying that in the long run, this is definitely not sustainable. If my numbers do climb to a certain point, I might be encouraging parasocial friendship. If my numbers climb to a certain point where I cannot possibly, you know, get back to everyone. But that's also a bridge that I'll have to cross when I get there. Actually, to give an example from like traditional YouTubers, right? Traditional flesh tubers, so to speak, I believe Markiplier has actually had a similar issue in the past as well, where he sort of was lamenting that he couldn't, you know, get to know all of his viewers on a personal level because he really liked that when he first started. And sort of when I watched that video of his where he talked about it, it really resonated with me. And so it even more so makes me want to cherish the time that I have right now, you know, when I'm still not so busy to the point that I can't get back to everyone. I'm not saying that I will grow exponentially and become the next Gagura or something. Definitely not, because this is not my full-time thing. But like if it ever does get to the point where my real life gets so busy, or if I do have so many numbers that I can't possibly remember everyone, then it'll make me sad, right? Like imagining that just makes me sad. But you know, once again, cross that bridge when we come to it.
And I guess where is that line for you? Like, is it like you said, you know, when it gets to the point you literally just cannot respond to everybody? Like, let's say tomorrow, you know, you get rated by Iron Mouse or something, and you have 2,000 viewers, and all of a sudden you have 2,000 people messaging you on Twitter. You know, I'm sure the expectation is understood by the average person that, well, obviously she's not going to be able to respond. But in terms of changing your relationship with your viewer base, what does that look like for you compared to what it is now? Is it, you know, more hands off?
I don't think it'll be more hands off. I think it'll be the same amount of hands on. It's just I only have 2 hands. Like, say for example, you've got 2 grocery bags, right? It's very hands on. I've got 2 hands and I'm carrying them both. But then when you're talking about that, right? I've got like 50 grocery bags now. I can only carry 2 at a time. And I really don't like leaving people out. I do submission streams where like people send in their submissions for me to read. And I do say, oh, I can't guarantee that I'll get through everyone. And yet I still try my best to get through everyone, and it ends up as like a god-awful long stream. So I feel really guilty because sort of they took their time to send something in. They took their time, and I feel like I have to honor that back because I want to treat them like a person. I'm not sure, right? Like, I just feel like if I were in their position, it would feel good to get responded back to. And I keep saying, I appreciate you, I appreciate each and every one of you, and I see you as people. So I feel like I have to demonstrate that, you know, because I really do see them all as people, and if I were to treat them respectfully as people, I will have to get back to every one of them. If, for example, I've got like 2,000 people messaging me every day all at once, that's gonna be so hard. That is going to be so hard. I think I might close my DMs and say it's only for business, but I will probably interact in the community Discord so much more, right? And you know, I will do my best wherever I can. But I also feel like that's the point where I would hire a secretary and be like, hey, could you please go through all these emails for me and tell me which ones are urgent? And I'll let them know, right? Like, if this person is just saying hi, ignore it. Or send them an automated message of like, hey, Neg doesn't hate you, but please don't say hi. Or not like please don't say hi, but like please say hi somewhere a little bit more convenient. And if it's like really like a cry for help message, right? Then I'll be like, okay, secretary, forward that one to me, and I'll see if I have some words for this person. If I don't have words for this person, I'll figure out something. Or if it's like a business proposal, I'll be like, okay, let's see what that is. Yada yada yada. So like, I think yeah, it'll be a little bit more hands off. I'd say I would hire a secretary, but I think that's about as far as I would go.
And because the VTuber community is built so much off the idea of, and I'm sure you're aware of this at a cursory level, same as I am, because it's built so much off of like GFE and like expanding personal, like parasocial relationships. You know, even though what you just said was you feel like what you're doing is worse, do you feel like your content or your growth or your reach has been kneecapped at all because you don't engage directly in those activities?
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%, absolutely. I mean, okay, let's be real, right? I like VTubers because they're cute. I like watching cute girls do cute things. And what more is a cute girl doing cute things than doing something potentially a little bit lewd, a little bit risque, and then pretending not to know. Oh no, am I doing something wrong right now? Haha, I had no idea. And that makes them a bit more cute because it's the vulnerability, it's the naivete. But I think like, you know, I can't bring myself to do something like that. I can enjoy someone else doing something like that. I can't, but like if I knew this person personally, then that would make me uncomfortable. Like if I have personal contact with this person, I'll be like, that's a bit weird. I didn't take you for the koi type. But like if I can just turn my brain off and be like, oh, this is a cute anime girl doing cute anime things, then I'd be happy to, you know, sort of suspend that disbelief and watch that and be healed. Iyasareru, as they say. Iyasareru. To be healed. Iyashike. And so I definitely know that by not being a little bit like that, I am kneecapping myself. I mean, I might unintentionally say something that is dirty without knowing. I mean, come on, I make dirty jokes. Everyone makes dirty jokes. Ha ha ha, pee pee. But I guess it's not the same as like directly like making yourself the subject of desire, right? And I don't know, it comes from both a place of like being self-conscious and also not wanting and like wanting to feel a bit more ethical in the way that I engage with things. And I'm not saying that people who do it are unethical. I really don't want to say that, but it's just I myself personally feel like I am not suitable for it. Because
you're not necessarily like doing it just to farm like the clip from like, you know, these clippers that'll take something, you know, mischievous or lewd that you say and post it to their, you know, clip farm channels just to get you a bunch of views, right? Like
no.
It's that type of thing, right?
Yeah, no. But like I also think that, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not how I operate. Like actually Actually, I had a funny interaction the other day. Actually, somebody came into my chat and said, "Wow, I love your design. I love your model. It's not like super sexualized like all the other VTubers out there." And on one hand, I'm like, "Thanks for the compliment," but also on the other hand, it felt a bit bad to receive that, because, like, what's wrong with liking sexy things, right? And with VTubers, they can embody whatever they want to be. I have my own personal reasons for not wanting to portray myself sexually. Because I just like the comfy aesthetic, you know? And so it's sort of like, why is it bad for other people to want to be sexy, you know?
Is there a deeper reason that you don't feel comfortable like exploring that side of yourself, or is it just like, hey, like, this isn't something that I'm interested in, like, you know, I'm not interested in exploring that, you know, I'll say version of yourself, right?
One is I just don't have that much time to draw, and two is I did do lewd art before, and there was a time where I did try to like lean more into that GFE stuff, right? Just a little bit. Just lean more into that whole parasocial of the I love you thing. And when I did lewd art, that was during the time when I felt really insecure. Like, I didn't feel like I was doing the whole VTuber thing right. That was back when I wanted to go full time. That was back when I felt like I wasn't well liked enough by my community, like the thing that I mentioned before. And so I thought, well, I see all these other VTubers doing this and they're getting the love that I feel like I want. So then I tried to, you know, lean in that direction, and I realized it got me a lot of, how do I put this? It made me be seen in a way that I didn't want to be seen, and it felt like I was pushing away a lot of the people that I would rather have around, you know? Like, I think it's a bit of a stereotype, hey, that like female VTubers, they get really happy when they have a female viewer. yeah, it's a bit of a stereotype. And so, like, I kind of feel that stereotype too, because you know how much VTubing is associated with like being parasocial and the whole like girlfriend, boyfriend, or like partner experience, right? Like, to have a viewer that is of the same gender who isn't attracted to you, like that feels like a win, doesn't it? That means that, like, oh, you enjoy my company, that I'm such a good VTuber, that like, wow, you're watching me even though you don't want to date me. And I feel like that is such a low bar to clear, right? And it also makes me feel yucky, you know, because it's kind of like I don't want to see myself as someone engaging in that kind of work, you know? That's not the kind of thing that I want. I stream for my community because I want to feel like I have, you know, an easy social outlet. We can just hang out. We can talk about things that, you know, might be a little bit too weird for my IRL friends to talk about. I can get a lot of a variety of opinions. We can have experiences together. We can share things together. And, you know, it's like, if I were to say what kind of an experience I want to give, using existing VTuber terms, maybe I want to give the BFE, the best friend experience. Yeah, the best friend experience, you know, because once again, I talk about a lot of uncomfortable topics, and I like to pick people's brains, and I like to armchair psychology them. And that I guess like I found out that like I do that a lot with my friends, like even if we're not super close. It's an awful habit, but I'm just going to like casually blame that on the fact that I'm neurodivergent. casually blame my tactlessness on being neurodivergent. But also it's because I get really bored by small talk, you know, and I like to pick people's brains. I love to pick people's brains, and not everyone likes that. And so to have a community full of people who are willing brains of experimentation for me, that's wonderful.
So you mentioned that you were feeling unloved by your community, or you didn't know if your community loved you or not, or I guess cared about you is a better way to put it. What made you feel that way?
The whole feeling unloved thing, I thought about it, I circled back to it. It was a 3-year contemplation, a 3-year-long contemplation. So it all started when I debuted. Actually, it all started when I was born, but I'll try my best to be brief on my life story. So, I know that it is a bit of a taboo on the internet to say, and I know that people take this the wrong way, and I know that people will make fun of people with mental health issues, but I have diagnosed CPTSD. From childhood.
What is I know PTSD. What is CPT?
CPTSD is concurrent. What does CPTSD stand for? Complex PTSD. So it goes all the way back to when I was born, and my childhood. So I know that like people on the internet, like I've seen, especially with the recent Vtuber stuff happening on Twitter, I have seen some screenshots of some very not nice things, and I've seen some very not nice things being said about individuals with mental health issues. It made me stop and reflect, because I typically like to be very transparent with my community. Like, yep, I'm neurodivergent, I have ADHD, and potentially there might be undiagnosed autism. I have spoken to my therapist and I have spoken to friends about it, and they all said, no, you probably don't have autism. I don't think I have autism, but I'm not ruling out the possibility because like I do recognize that sometimes my actions are a little bit autistic, and in the way that I think are a little bit autistic coded. So I just say neurodivergent because I don't know. Am I autistic? Ugh. I know I have ADHD. But the thing is, like, the interesting thing is that I don't think there's been enough sort of like neuroscience studies on this, right? Because like, autism and ADHD, like it literally is, your brain is built different, right, from neurotypical people. And so from what we currently know, I guess like currently widely known knowledge about autism and ADHD is that they occur in the same places in the brain. So like ADHD and autism, they might not be all that different, if you know what I mean. It might just be like two different versions of the same thing. Which is why you find like so much overlap, right?
But going back to what you were saying,
yes.
You have seen in the public eye, at least, mental health issues be ridiculed in the VTuber community.
Yes, essentially.
And was that part of the driving factor of like, combined with your childhood, kind of, put the thought in your head of, well, my community doesn't love me or won't ever love me, or at least for you, respect you as like a friend or a companion, right? Because you're not necessarily going for the love aspect. Is that correct to say?
I just sort of brought all that stuff up as a precursor for what I'm about to say, which is that like I do have diagnosed CPTSD, right? And so that contributed to a lot of the reason why I sort of didn't feel appreciated and loved by my community. And so it's basically like CPTSD is basically like a bunch of like small childhood trauma, which is like I was not exactly a child that was given a lot of attention. Like I wasn't raised by my parents. I was raised by my grandparents overseas, but then my grandparents for a big part of my childhood, they fell sick. And so I was handed off to like family friends or like nannies and stuff who all had their own children and their own responsibilities. And so it was sort of like nobody knows what's really going on with this child. Right? And so like that kind of stuff can really sort of mess up the way that a kid grows up with attachment. And then once I was sent back to Australia, I was I guess, preschool age, and so my parents were always working, and so I was left at preschool. And like at that point, like I didn't speak enough English to properly communicate my thoughts to the preschool teachers, and the preschool teachers, I was Asian, and so they didn't like me as much as the other kids, that they might, you know, have more conversations with the parents or something, because my parents would come and then after work and then they'll pick me up. I was usually one of the first kids there and the last kids to go. And so like it's a bunch of that stuff. And so growing up, I think I always had attention issues. Like I always felt like I needed more attention. But unlike the way that sort of a lot of people with like attention issues sort of express them, I learned to internalize mine. Which is also like, you know, it relates back to the why was I so shy and why didn't I reach out to anyone in the communities growing up, because I guess I felt like I was never good enough. I felt like I didn't deserve to, and so like I think like typically I was a kid who was able to find happiness wherever I was. like I was able to make my own fun wherever, and so that didn't bother me as much as a kid. But then growing up, I realized that like I had a crippling sense of loneliness, which I think also led to like a bunch of contemplation, which is why I really like armchairing my audience, right? Because now like I'm really bad at small talk. I'm really bad at small talk. And I'm really bad at pretending to like something that I don't like, which is, once again, also a reason why I can't do GFE. Right? Because you have to be the loving girlfriend that accepts everything. That like, if someone's being dumb, I'll be like, mate, you're dumb. Actually, that's not true. I'm a weenie. I'm a weenie. I'll be like, I think that was really mean. Please don't do that again. I understand. You probably didn't mean it. But also, I would like you to not do that, because I did not really like that.
But in your head, you're like, you're dumb, basically.
Yeah. In my head, I'm like, who taught you how to speak? I hope you never say another word ever again.
Oh my gosh.
Who taught you how to speak? I would like a word with that person.
What kind of experiences is your chat giving you? Dang.
No. It's not my chat.
Oh, okay. Just in general. Yeah. Just
in general. I'm very. But then, like, that's my initial thought, right? Like everyone has evil thoughts initially, right? And then afterwards, I'll be like, you know, I've got the angel and the demon on my shoulder, for example, and afterwards, like, I'll be like, Neg Nasu, why would you ever think that about that person? Maybe they just don't know any better. Maybe they said it as a joke, okay? How will they ever understand that you don't like it unless you communicate it? You should be nice to them. What if they feel super guilty after you say that you don't like it? So you have to tell them that, oh, I know you didn't mean it. And so I just end up softening everything. And it's a journey. But then anyway, pretty much I grew up with like a crippling sense of loneliness, right? Because I didn't know how to relate to my friends. I didn't know how to relate to other people. And growing up through school, I was always the weird kid. I didn't know how to talk to other kids about what they liked. And I would always just dump a bunch of my interests on them. And they would get so bored. Like I have had the experience of someone being like, stop talking to me about this, get a journal. Start a journal, right? And like I don't know, my head was, this was before I was diagnosed with ADHD, by the way. My head was just always up in the clouds. Like I didn't care about anything except for my hyperfixations. I didn't care about the other people at school. As long as I had one friend that I could dump everything on, then I don't need anyone else. The world can get fucked for all I cared. And then of course, like after like high school, I realized something else, kind of like, that is no way to live. That is not the right way to live. So had to do a lot of introspection and had to really like better myself as a person. And I would say that like I learned how to find interest in everything. is how I would put it. I would say it's not that I'm pretending to be interested. I think I've learned some sort of mechanism to pretend in my brain that I am super interested in it, to the point that I have the capacity to be interested in everything, which makes life so much more fun, right?
So what caused you to fall back into the rut of my chat doesn't like me and stuff? Is it just like, because it sounds like, you know, at least during high school and stuff, you at least adapted and learned, you know, about certain aspects of yourself in order to kind of overcome that loneliness. So what was it about VTubing on your and cultivating your community that made you fall kind of back into that rut?
I think it's several things. I think I never really processed the fact that I was deeply lonely. I always thought that I was okay, you know. For the longest time, I thought that I was okay, and there were like little things sometimes that would come up, and I'd sort of like shove that away to be like, no, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm fine. But then when you put, but like that's because I wasn't in high stress situations, right? I wasn't in a situation that really had to make me think about myself. And when you're doing content creation, and once again, in something like VTubing where your personality and you yourself are the product, like all of those little things that I learned to shove away by like diving headfirst into a new interest and to sort of like hyperfixate on something like that all kind of came crashing down on me, because at that point, like, VTubing was my hyperfixation. And so all of the insecurities of not being good enough, the deep loneliness, it started eating away at me. And I have this awful thing where I'm a little bit of an elitist on the inside. I mean, okay, this has gotten better, but like during that time, right, I was an elitist on the inside. I held myself to higher standards than everyone else, because I was like, because there were people that I looked down on, and I would think to myself, I would never be like those people. But it's fine if they live like that because they're happy. But I'm not happy living like that. And so it's like a double standard, right? Like it's fine if everyone else is like this, but no, you can't be like this. You have to be better than that, right? But you also can't gloat about the fact that you're better than that. You also can't say out loud that you're trying hard. Like, because if people don't see the results for themselves, then that means you're not trying hard enough, and that means you failed, and there's no point saying it out loud. And so it's a lot of that like toxic perfectionism, you know, the whole like wanting to feel accepted thing. It's sort of how do I put it? I wanted to be exactly like every other VTuber, to receive the same kind of love while also feeling like I'm above needing it. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
and so,
I know what you mean. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And it was made even worse because there was an incident where somebody joined my Discord server. This was back when I think VTubing was new, so my Discord server was like popping off because everyone was like, whoa, indie VTuber. Someone joined my server, and because I didn't want to interact too closely with my community back then, because I was trying to copy the way that corporate VTubers did things, this person ended up sort of like making friends with everyone in the community, right? And that's great, you know, that's really, really great. Made friends with everyone in the community, and like slowly eventually sort of shipped them off to her own Discord server where she became a VTuber in. And like, I wanted to do things like a corporate VTuber, you know. I was like busy working on a bunch of covers, I was busy working on a bunch of like content that I thought everyone would like. And then while I was busy working on all that stuff and wanting to stream and wanting to engage with everyone, but also feeling like I had to keep a distance, that happened right under my nose, and I felt like I couldn't stop it, because I felt like if I did do something about it, then I would be a bad person, because that makes you a jealous bitch. Essentially. Right?
Do you think that was purposeful on her part, or was it just like,
later
I'm already
on,
friends with everyone in her community, and you know, her parts of her community could be parts of my community too, right?
Later on, she came to me personally to apologize for it and said that it was done purposefully on her part. And other reports have come from other friends of hers that said that this was a pattern of behavior that she quite often does. And so, like, I'm sure that she has her stuff to work through, but it was a very not nice thing to do to someone. She did this in a very strategic way, I would say. And I guess, like, at that point, I felt like my community had lied to me. Like, they mentioned appreciating me so much, and they mentioned, because, you know, like, this person, they would stream games in my community while I was streaming. And so people would stop talking in my chat and go watch her, right? And this, like, mind you, this was when I first started, so I was a small streamer, and also I had all these unresolved issues that I didn't take care of yet. And so that kind of, I think that kind of was a point of trauma for me. That made me feel really expendable. That made me feel really replaceable again. And that brought back a lot of those feelings of loneliness of, oh, okay, I see how it is. Like, you know, look, you're just not working hard enough, right? Like, it's a combination of, you're just not working hard enough. Look, why would these people leave you if you were working harder? You should work harder, right? Like that person that came into your community and did that, like, she was only able to do that because you weren't able to provide those community members with enough entertainment on your streams, in your content. But also, like, she did it in like the GFE way, you know, she did it in the flirty, loving way. And so, like, that, I don't want to say it broke me. It kind of forced me to confront a bunch of stuff that I've shoved away. I guess that deep loneliness. And I took a month off break. I took a month off streaming back then. I said that I'd quit streaming, actually, because I thought, yeah, no, this isn't for me. Because the whole, like, keeping my community at an arm's length thing, it wasn't working for me anymore. It felt like I felt really lonely, right? It felt like I was, and because I didn't engage with the rest of the VTuber community, because I'm not good at forming relationships with people that are superficial. I'm really, really not good at that. I mean, I've gotten better at being cordial, right, to people.
When you say that the relationships in the VTuber community are superficial, do you mean basically you'd only be forming a friendship with a VTuber because it's mutually beneficial for both of your growth?
Right. I don't want to be doing that. I really didn't want to be doing that because that just doesn't feel right. And also, I'm not good at it. I'm really not good at that. I guess you can blame that on the neurodivergence too. Right. So pretty much, yeah, I felt like I wasn't appreciated. I took a month off streaming with the intention of graduating without a graduation stream, just like, hey, I'm not gonna stream anymore. This isn't what I want. Right? And then a month later, I started to miss it. So I came back. And after I came back, that's when I moved from YouTube to Twitch. And things were good. Things were good for a long while. But during this time, I still didn't have the spine to tell people to knock something off when I didn't like it. I didn't have the spine to not let people ridicule me when, you know, the whole, like, ragging on the streamer type humor, right? I didn't have the spine to tell weird people saying weird things to stop saying weird things. Right? And so, like, I ended up not liking my community for a little bit because I just didn't know how to say no. I didn't know how to tell people not to do things that I didn't like. And so even in my Discord server, I didn't feel connected to anyone. And so I stopped hanging out in my Discord server too, because I felt like I didn't get any respect. People were talking over me. People would be like, I would release content, and then people would be like, oh wow, Neg, that's nice. Anyway. Which actually happened, by the way. That's not paraphrasing. That actually happened. Like, oh wow, good job, Neg. Anyway, paragraph about their life.
Wow. And it was in your Discord?
It was in my Discord, yeah. And I didn't feel like I could do anything because, no, Neg, don't be a bitch. Don't be a jerk. Don't be an asshole. Like, these people are in your community and in your server. They give you the courtesy of coming to your streams. Like, why would you treat your own community like this? You know, you're not a god. You're not above them. But once again, it made me feel really small. It made me, and not small as in numbers. It made me feel like insignificant. And that made me really sad, you know. But like, I still really liked content creation, and the people who did come to streams, that like, mind you, like, not all of my community was like this. Like, a good chunk of my community, the ones who like chatted with me on stream and engaged with like the cool stuff, I liked them, right? But it's just that there was like a subgroup of people, I guess, in the community that felt like, you know, they were here to hang out with other people in the community that they've made friends with, and I was kind of just incidental. And you know, I don't blame them, right? Like, once again, I don't like pretending to be interested in something that I'm not interested in, so why should they pretend to be interested in something they're not interested in, right? Like, I feel like it's not their fault. Once again, I feel like, yeah, was it rude and tactless? Yes, it was. But do I completely blame them? No, I don't, because I heavily mismanaged my community, like, right from the start, right? And so, like, you know, the whole like quitting being a VTuber thing, radio silence from me, and leaving my Discord server because like, I didn't like what was happening in there, but I felt like I couldn't stop it because I guess I've never been in a position of leadership, right? I've never been in a position where I felt like I had the power, or I even had the right to say that I liked something or I didn't like something. So I guess you can say that I didn't learn self-respect until halfway through my VTuber journey.
And what was the catalyst that helped you finally learn that? Or what was the catalyst that, you know, finally got you to a point where you could start saying no and get to a point where you felt like your community equally respected you, just like, you know, you respected them?
Long story. Long story. It was a journey and a half. long story. So the story goes, I am taking all the good and taking all the bad with streaming, right? Like, all the great people that I sincerely appreciate them. I platonically love you guys. Right? I sincerely appreciate them. But all the people that made me uncomfortable, I don't want to call them bad people, okay? Once again, it was all incidental, and I understand that a lot of people who were involved were also very young as well. And when you are young and just weehoo wahoo, I'm having fun on the internet, you don't really think about these things. And also, like, who knows, there might be neurodivergency involved, and you, once again, unless you are told directly, you don't really consider these things. And what was I not doing? Telling people things directly. Right? And so I was still in the mindset of I need to be a clean VTuber, like a corporate VTuber. I should never disparage my viewers. I should make my mods do the dirty work. And so I asked, like my mods are my personal friends. And so I asked them, you know, please, like, this makes me uncomfortable. Please DM these people, or please do something about it. Like it was literally just me pleading. Like, whenever it got to a point where, like, I was so stressed out, I'd just plead to be like, please do something about it, because I'm not allowed to. Because I felt like I wasn't allowed to, right? And it also felt, once again, like, it felt like I felt like within myself I wasn't allowed to put my foot down because I'm a weenie. I was a weenie with no self-respect. Now I'm a weenie with self-respect. I'm not a weenie anymore. I've graduated. I'm Frankfurt. yeah, literally, I'm Frankfurt. Let me be frank with you.
I'm gonna make that the thumbnail. It's just you and a hot dog. I'm Frankfurt.
Yeah, me and a hot dog, Frankfurt. Let me be frank with you. That's so good. That's so good. I love that. What happened after that? So my mods, they would DM people, yada yada, but then the result wasn't always
real quick
what I
before you
liked.
go into that.
Oh yes.
You mentioned that your mods are your personal friends. Are you talking about IRL personal friends or just like friends that you were close to on the internet?
Friends I'm close to on the internet.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry, just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. Actually, like a lot of them were from the early days of the community, and people that I've like reached out to and DM'd to be like, hey, you're really cool. First they started as mods, and then like I guess over time after we started talking in the mod room, I've just like become friends with them. And so now it's been like 3 years. It's been 3 years by now, so I would consider them good, close, personal friends. They're not really present anymore in the community and in my streams, but like funny that I feel like now that the community is at a point where I don't really need mods. Like they are nice to have in situations where like my hands are full, but I think like I feel like I've got a good grip on things, that I feel safe enough to do things by myself. But like back then I was in the corpo mindset of like, oh, these mods, they will protect me, you know, because you know how corpo VTubers, they're like they blame if they don't necessarily want to do something, they can just say, oh, manager said it was a bad idea, and then everyone would be like, oh, okay, right.
So you were using your mods as a shield essentially.
Essentially, and for the longest time, because I watched a lot of corpos, I thought that was just how it was done. And also, I was a weenie, and that was not good. I really didn't like what little control we had, and also I didn't want to push my mods too far, you know, because at that point we were friends. And they were doing it out of the goodwill of their hearts to be mods and my friends, and you know maybe sometimes I can't say for sure, maybe sometimes they did get a thrill out of like yelling at someone that they also personally had gripes with. Who knows, right? I can't speak for them, and like granted they didn't yell at them, it was like a firm message from them, but then like nothing would change. Nothing would change because people would be like, oh, okay, to the mods' messages. Either the mods were too vague with their DMs, or they were too nice with their DMs, and so like nothing would change. And after a whole while of nothing changing, like I didn't know what to do. And that was, I think, around when I tried leaning more into GFE. Like leaning ever so slightly more into GFE.
Oh, so you actually did try it a little bit then.
Leaning ever so slightly because I didn't want to like go dive fully into it. Like I got myself like an ASMR like binaural binaural microphone set that I have not used in like a year and a half. I have not used in a year and a half, and I guess it's sort of like if people won't respect me then. And they don't love me and they don't like me, then like maybe I can make them love me, right? Because I was really jealous of how other VTuber communities, like they were diehard fans of their streamer. They were diehard fans of the VTuber, but I felt like I didn't have any fans, let alone like people who even liked me. It felt like my community didn't even like me. I felt like I was just there for them to point at and laugh at while they bickered and talked amongst themselves, you know? And of course, like once again, there were people in the community who did keep me going. There were people who I saw that genuinely appreciated me, but I think people tend to focus on the negative stuff, right? And then also there's like a bunch of lurkers as well. They don't say anything. It's just... I see that there.
I was lurking this morning.
There's like a bunch of lurkers. They don't say anything, and so like, but because I was so focused on feeling like I was being ignored and everything, I was so short-sighted and narrow-minded, and I just thought, well, maybe I can change things up, you know? What are the other VTubers doing right that I'm not doing right? Like, their fans all love them. Their viewers love them. Their viewers are viewers. Their community are fans. Their viewers are fans. I have a community. I have viewers. But I don't have fans. I didn't feel like I have fans. So I just thought, maybe if I gave them a reason to like me, right? Like, I think at that point, like, I was just so deeply lonely. Because this was when I was trying to go full time. I thought I really liked content creation. I really want to keep doing this. And so I was in a I will do whatever it takes to succeed kind of mindset. But I really didn't do whatever it took because once again, I still didn't network because talking to people is scary. And also, once again, like I really, really, really do not like commodifying friendships. I really, really, really do not like faking friendships. And I'm really bad at it, right? I'm really, really bad at it. And so, once again, I did all, so that's when I did lean into the GFE thing a little bit, right? And I think I just felt ashamed of myself after a bit. And that's why
because it wasn't the real you, right? I mean,
it wasn't really what I wanted to do. It felt like I was selling out, you know. And to the people who really do like doing GFE, and that is their main content, and they love it, they're lucky. They're really lucky because what they love doing is what is the zeitgeist. And so like I want that sort of like Venn diagram middle part to be celebrated for them, right? But like for me, it just wasn't me, and I just felt like, then what is the point of this industry, right? Because what is the point of me being in this industry? Because VTubing, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's an elaborate costume party. Everyone's here to share nice things, to be cute and anime on the internet, right? And I really had to reevaluate that for myself. What did I really want out of this? And it took a long time, mind you. It wasn't like a single afternoon of contemplation. It was like a year and a half. It was a year of stumbling over myself, going back on my word to myself, you know, reverting into old habits, sliding back, but like, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, each step of the way. And so there is an incident that was sort of like an inciting incident for like, all right, things really need to change. And then and then after that was when I decided to be a hobbyist, and that was when ironically I found happiness. And I'm streaming a lot more than I used to, and I'm making a lot more content than I used to. I'm probably like working doubly as much as I used to, but I'm doubly as happy. Probably even more. So
are you trying to tell me that incident, which we'll get to later, was kind of the final nail in the coffin of like, okay, I want to do this as a hobby? And would you say that that decision of yours to do it as a hobby was kind of that final freeing, like letting the bird out of the cage of like, oh, I can do this and just kind of have fun with it. Like I don't have to be like so stressed out about people not liking me and stuff, and so worried about, you know, mutually beneficial relationships, and I can just have fun with it and stuff. And would you say, if that was the case in that moment, you know, that light bulb moment for you kind of really did turn on, was that the moment where you finally understood like kind of how to evaluate and churn your audience and kind of turn it into something where you did feel comfortable kind of, you know, saying no to the things that you didn't like?
Absolutely. It's really freeing. It's the, I have nothing to lose. I have nothing of real value to lose by losing numbers. Right? Like I guess like of course, there's the money issue, but I view the money that comes into me via VTubing, that's pocket money. I use that to buy Hot Wheels and show it off on stream. Like that's quite literally pocket money. So like honestly, right? Like I would not even care if my streams made 0 cents. Cause it's all about emotional benefit for me now. It's a hobby, it's fun, and when I'm having fun, well, the people watching and the people who are consuming the content, they also have fun.
Well, again, you know, as we talked about in DMs before, I do really feel like you're missing an opportunity here a little bit to like bust out the biurnal mic again and, you know, rev your Hot Wheels up, because, you know, especially with you know, boyfriend rolls downstairs and crashes into cars and stuff, there's an opportunity there. You know, you could just make purple dog friend revs up Hot Wheels and make it like 3 hours long.
the purple dog revs up Hot Wheels. You are trying to sleep and there is a child in your room playing with Hot Wheels.
It's perfect because like for 15 minutes you could just make it like chill like Hot Wheels noises, and then all of a sudden just do like loud intense banging just to like wake somebody up.
Like, why would you roll up this ramp?
It's perfect.
Oh, sorry, did I wake you up? Sorry.
It's perfect. But I will ask as well, because you haven't really mentioned this. Do you have friends or family? And I think you mentioned that your mom came in during one of our sessions. So I'm sure your parents know at least that you do, you know, streaming and VTubing and stuff. But I know other VTubers like to keep it like really private, like no one knows. Like we were talking earlier about, you know, corporate VTubers, and sometimes not even their parents know that they stream and stuff. But if people that are close to you know, whether that's friends or family, what do they think about it, and how do they feel about you streaming and being a content creator on the internet?
I think so. My parents know, and I guess they treat it like oh yeah, no, that's just the thing that she's doing. I think at the very start they go on the internet quite a bit, right? so they're like, oh yeah, we know what streamers are, and so they thought that I was just, you know, playing some video games, or like just doing, like, you know, the Minecraft YouTubers. They thought I was doing stuff like that, and they were like, yeah, okay, whatever. That's fine. I mean, because I've always been an internet creature growing up, and so and I've met up with like online friends before, IRL. You know, just to go to conventions with and stuff, and my sister has like gone to America to meet online friends, and so it's like, you know, they understand the internet is a wide place, and like, yeah, you do whatever you want. They didn't realize that it was a serious thing until I started mentioning, oh, you know, I have a schedule, I have to stream at this time every day, and that my chat is giving me pocket money. And they're like, okay, I understand now, they have memberships to you, well, you'd better attend to that, because my mom's a gamer, right? Like, we have to respect her raid times. If she says, oh, I can't do this at that time because I've got a raid,
Would
right?
she play World of Warcraft?
Oh, she plays like MapleStory Mobile. But she's like very serious about it.
I love that.
And so like, I respect her raid times, and so like, she respects my stream times. So like, it's never been too much of an issue there. My sister, however, I feel like at the very start, I feel like she never outright said it, and I never really outright asked her about it, but it felt like she was very dismissive of the fact that I was a streamer. It felt like she was, I'd say, even a little bit disappointed in me. Maybe not disappointed in me, but like, I felt ashamed, right, to talk about it with my sister. Like when I said, when I was stressed out about like, oh, you know, I have a stream at this time, I feel like I shouldn't be late and stuff like that. She was just like, don't worry about it, nobody cares, right? But like, not in the whole like, oh, don't worry, your community understands. It's in the, seriously, you're being serious about this kind of attitude, right? At least that's how I interpreted it. So I felt like she was ashamed of me, because she, I guess, you know, it's the whole, she also watches like Niji Sanji, Hololive, right? And so she understands what VTubers are. She understands VTuber culture, but she's not really familiar with indies. And so like maybe she had the attitude of, my little sister, she wants to be like the big ones. She's doing the thing where she thinks she's so important. You know, it's like, you know, my sister wants to be a YouTuber. It's essentially, right? It's essentially like, my little sister wants to be a YouTuber. How ridiculous. Doesn't she know that people don't actually care about her upload schedule and stuff like that? Doesn't she know that like stressing out about this kind of stuff is only just gonna hurt her? There's no way she's gonna make it, so why stress out? It's like, it's not like it's a business, just chill out, man, kind of feeling, right? I got that kind of vibe from her. And so I guess that's another facet of I felt ashamed. And even then, like she also once told me that like the way that I tweeted on my VTuber Twitter, it felt kind of shady. like you're pretending to be someone that you're not, essentially, is what she said. She's like, you're talking like a brand. You're talking like you're a curated brand. You never used to, like, you would never talk like this if it was, you know, back on your art Twitter.
Did that negatively feed back into, because we talked about earlier about how much respect you hold for your sister, you know, regarding artwork and stuff. Did that have a negative feedback loop for you when you first started, of her kind of being dismissive of your journey, you know, starting to stream and growing in streaming?
Yeah, it had a negative feedback loop on me. So like it made me feel like I always had to be honest. It made me feel like, yeah, you know, on one hand I really wanted to succeed and I really wanted to be successful, but also on the other hand, like that was one of the big things that sort of made me like, how do I put this? You should always be yourself. You should never appear like you care too much about things, because chill out, man. It's just a hobby. While secretly, I really, really, really wanted to succeed. And so like that, it was really hard to keep that up because I felt like I wasn't allowed to want it. I felt like, you know, oh yeah, work hard. If it happens, it happens. But you're not allowed to say that you want it to happen, you know? You're not allowed to... It felt like I wasn't allowed to want fanfare for myself. And that felt bad. Obviously it felt bad. Right? So like the whole time I had to, you know, keep going with the mindset of, well, in order to be respected, I have to get into a company, I have to get into Hololive, I have to get into Niji Sanji and all that. And so, like, while I was working on my content, I was, like, auditioning left and right. Of course I got ghosted because I was a nobody and I probably didn't know how to structure my application properly. And so, and also I didn't have any connections in the VTubing world. Well, not many connections because I'm just bad at reaching out to people. I'm bad at keeping up with people. Like, I'm generally bad at getting back to DMs. Even to my own friends. Let alone, like, you know, message random people pretending that we are best friends forever. Because, like, no shade, right? Maybe a little shade. But I do see a lot of VTubers who go, oh my god, I love you so much, to someone that they just met. Or like to someone that they barely know anything about, but just because the other person made like a viral post, there are like people in the comments being like, oh, you are so true for this, you are always so true, you always bring the realness, or something like that, or like, yes, let's go. And it's all just like meaningless nothing platitudes from a stranger, and I've never been good at engaging in those. Like, I'm barely even good at I'm barely even good at keeping up with my friends. And even when I give compliments, right, like, I really don't like just saying, oh wow, this is so good, I love it, because that feels like nothing. I'm really bad at faking emotions. and it feels really bad. And the more I think about it, the harder it is.
You wear your heart on your sleeve a little bit, it sounds like.
It feels like I have to. I have a pervasive sense of guilt. I have a very, very big guilty conscience. And I think that does probably have a lot to do with the way that I was raised and maybe my relationship with my sister. Because I respect my sister so much, and she's the kind of person that calls out bullshit when she sees it, right? And so it's sort of a feeling of, I was raised, I guess, to not spout bullshit. I was raised to be bad at bullshit. and so like I think it's a better way to live as well, to not be bullshit. But like, that is to say, like, it's not that I never do spout bullshit, because there is a whole thing, and we will get to that soon.
At what point did you feel like you were able to manage your sister's expectations or dismissiveness of your streaming? Did that happen around the same time that you were, curating this newly formed version of you where you were treating it as a hobby? So you're like, I've got a stream schedule, and if she says who cares, then who cares about her saying who cares about my stream schedule, right? Like, how did you, what made you go from caring about, her dismissiveness to now being able to come into your own as a streamer?
I think it also had a lot to do with like when I decided this was a hobby. Like she's my sister. She cares about me, even though she's a bit tsundere about it. Right? She cares about me. Like her dismissiveness was her way of caring about me by trying to like remind me it's not that deep, bro. Don't be stressed, right? Obviously it didn't work, but that's just how sibling relationships are. Sometimes I'd say my sister and I, we stereotypically interact like if we're going with like gender stereotypes, we stereotypically feel more like brothers than sisters. Right? And so like anyone with a brother understands the whole like just chill out, man, and this older sibling being a bit more tsundere. Right? Because we don't really have deep conversations. It's more like we understand what's going on with each other beneath the surface kind of thing. Yeah. So anyway, what made me be okay with the dismissiveness? I guess it's because she just saw how I became more chill. Now that it's a hobby, like I have my schedule and I've been streaming for so long, it's just become a part of life. And so it's kind of like, I think because it's been normalized so much, and the fact that it's a part of life, and the fact that I'm no longer stressed out, I call the shots. I can say, hey, I'm taking a break this week because uni. I'm taking a break this week because I feel sick. I'm taking a break today because weather hot. Me go sleep now, bye. As long as I still respect my viewers' time. I think, like, see, sorry, it's a bit of a tangent, but, like, I think one of the biggest changes in the way that I view my schedule and the way that I view my upload schedule from before I used to view it as, I have to be on time because it's a job. And because I want to make it big, I have to be on time and I have to honor my schedule because otherwise people are gonna leave me and they're gonna think that I'm a bad person. And now, the way that I think of it is, I made an appointment with my friends, I said that I would be there, and people take time out of their days. People even put on alarms to wake up early, so I have to communicate, because otherwise it'll be disrespecting their time. And, as soon as you stop seeing it as these people are numbers, right, and number go down if you not do the thing, you see them as people that you're respecting, it makes it a lot easier to show up on time even. What a catch-22, right? What a catch-22.
Yeah, no, it definitely sounds like it. I mean, it sounds like that's honestly, a little bit of the perspective you'd have trying to go corporate and stuff too. So I definitely understand and definitely relate to the stresses of, I need to keep this up, or, I'm never going to make it to the next level, whether or not that be Hololive or Niji-san.
Yeah.
I was promising everyone for years that I'd be part of Hololive's first, or Holostars' first English generation. We can see how well that worked out.
Yeah.
So, I totally understand you there.
The corporate world works in funny ways, and yeah, I think, you know, once numbers get big enough and once enough money gets involved and once like corporate gets involved, like you really have to stop thinking about the individual. But like once again, that's why being a hobbyist is such a blessing, right? Yes, I am tanking my own potential growth with a lot of the way that I handle things, but it just feels better. You know, it feels like I'm engaging with people, and that in itself helps a lot with the loneliness. But anyway, back to the series of questions, because I feel like we're gonna go circular.
No, I mean that's fine though, because I mean you have cultivated your community in a way where it's like you've kind of freed yourself from the shackle of, oh, these are viewers that are gonna leave me if I'm not responsible, to, hey, take it or leave it, I'm the funny purple wolf guy on the internet. Like
yeah, take it or leave it, I'm the funny purple wolf. But also, if something changes in my schedule, I will do my best to let you guys know, because I want to respect your time.
Sure, but you're not treating it as a looming threat of, oh my god, I can't let these people down, or my career is basically obliterated.
Yeah, it's not a looming threat. It's more like a hey man, can't hang out today, sorry, you can get some more sleep kind of thing. Yeah. So
I want to circle back a little bit on a couple of things that you mentioned before. I wrote down some questions that kind of arose from things that you were saying as you were talking about some stuff earlier. So you mentioned that you like to armchair your chat, but in that you also mentioned that you like to talk to them about things that you don't normally talk to your IRL friends about. Do you find, kind of similar to how you rebirthed your audience a little bit, do you find it freeing to be able to use the anonymity that you get, by inhabiting Neg Nasu, the VTuber, and being able to talk to these things about chat? Do you find that freeing? And is there certain reasons why you won't engage IRL with your friends on some of these topics? Do you feel like you can't go as deep with your IRL friends because there's not that anonymity there to kind of protect you from your thoughts and feelings on certain things? Or can you elaborate on that a little bit?
There's a, like with most things, there's a few reasons, right? So the reason I don't talk to my IRL friends about some stuff is, I guess, it's boundaries, right? Like, on being a VTuber, it gives me an anonymity, but being my community and on the internet, it also gives my viewers anonymity. And so it's very different from like someone that, because I've known my friends for like a lot of my life by now, right? It's very different for someone that you know personally to ask you a personal question and to like armchair you to be like, I think you're feeling this way because this, or to like be like, hey, what's up? What's up? I noticed you do this. Does that mean anything? Right? Like it's tactless, right? I've learned that it's tactless, and not everyone is necessarily comfortable with that. I will find opportunities, like quiet opportunities, to ask my friends like, hey, what's up with this, right? Because I do like connecting with people, but I guess it's just not as easy. It feels like there are less opportunities with my IRL friends to bring things up, right? But on stream in particular, it's like, we are all gathered here today to mourn the loss of, sorry, that wrong life event. Wrong life event. We are all gathered here today to chill out and talk about things, and we all have the understanding that things can potentially get a little bit uncomfortable. And so, because there is a mutual understanding, like they've already sort of given consent by being here. if you know what I mean, right? And like if at any point like anyone is uncomfortable with something that I say, I always invite people to say out loud, hey, if you don't like what I'm saying, please do disagree with me, because I want to have a discussion. This is not me lecturing you. This is me musing and rambling, right? Like my Zatsuran streams, and most of my streams actually, it's a conversation. It's not a one-sided thing, and that's the beautiful thing about streaming that I've grown to really, really appreciate and really love.
And do you find that your I won't say lack of ability, but your lack of ability, for lack of a better word, to discuss certain topics with your in real life friends, means that there's only, you know, that your friendship is more surface level than you would like, you know, being, you know, there are certain topics that you can't discuss as readily with them? Or is it more of, like you said, more of just a matter of like respect, like, you know, even, you know, a relationship can be, you know, as deep as the ocean, but I'll still never talk to you about this stuff in real life and would much rather discuss this with my chat?
I think a lot of the stuff that I discuss with my chat, I would be more than happy to discuss with my IRL friends. It's just that, like, once again, you know, it's an opportunity thing, and also it's a finding the right place, the right time, the right tone. Sometimes people might not be up for conversations like that, and that's fine, right? So, like, because a one-on-one situation, you really are putting someone on the spot, but once again, because it's streaming, I'm not really putting one person on the spot. Generally, I'm not putting any one person on the spot. And we're just sort of like discussing ideas and concepts, like, generally, right? And if the shoe fits for someone, maybe they can take something away from that. If the shoe doesn't fit, then it can be a fun thought exercise in picking each other's brainworms.
And has there been an instance where something has been brought up in chat where you're like, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole, or you know, I'll say it in a different way, where you start to engage with something and you see it, like, you know, the chat's interaction with you and your discussions of whatever the topic ends up being is like taking a nosedive into territory where you're like, we're not going here. Is there instances, has that happened?
Yes, absolutely, yes. You know, the funny thing is, like, my community has gotten to the point where, like, I will be sort of like talking around a topic, and I have a very bad habit of, I form my thoughts as I talk, right? Like, I think a lot better when I'm talking and I'm discussing. Like, that's how I get my ideas, right? It's sort of flow of consciousness, right? And so there have been many instances where, like, community members, like chat members, will actually stop me before I slide down that slippery slope of, this is going somewhere that we probably don't want it to go. It's like, I see a lot of people in chat being like, stop, Neg, this is not going somewhere good, this is not going to lead anywhere good. And I pause for a moment and I think, oh no, you're right, all right, let's move on. So there have been a lot of instances like that. There have been times in chat, like when chat has been like discussing stuff that I'm not entirely comfortable with as well. Like, once again, the slippery slope of our conversation. And generally, I would like to hope that I'm good at cutting that stuff off. But because, like, I'm inquisitive, right? I'm inquisitive by nature, and I like to believe that there is no topic out there that is taboo, that can't be discussed and sort of thought about. But I also understand, like, you know, streaming is a public platform, and there are ways to do things that is respectful, and, like, I can't treat it like a private room where we are all academics discussing things in objectivity. You know, some things can be very upsetting and some things can be very polarizing. And so sometimes I don't realize that. So a lot of the time when that's happening in chat, like, I will begin to read it out loud, and then my other community members once again will be like, no, Neg, you don't want to read that one. And then sometimes even the person who, like, mentioned it themselves, they'll be like, oh yeah, no, that was a bit too far, hey. And so I'm pretty happy, right? I'm pretty happy with it, where the community is. Like, I feel like my community calls me out more often than me calling the topic out, which I'm really grateful, I'm really thankful, and I really appreciate those guys, because we're able to have such good, mature conversations about things, right?
I also understand the perspective of, you know, somebody comes into chat and brings it up, and you're like, well, there's like 30 different ways this can go. I'm not nearly well researched enough to be able to give like an informed opinion, and like, if this gets clipped, be able to actively defend that opinion online to the masses on Twitter that are going to see it if this does get clipped.
This is actually a very good way to say it out loud. Like I could say that verbatim out loud, and then people would be like, "Yep, that makes sense." Like I think I've like said something similar before. It's kind of like, "Oh, that's interesting," or like they ask for an opinion, and I'm like, "I do not know enough about this to give an opinion." That would just you know, and it would just be in bad faith if I said anything here.
It adds your 2 cents to a conversation whose coin machine is already fully clogged up with quarters.
Yes. Or rather, the item they want to buy is not on the menu.
yeah, there you go. That's a good way to put it. I do have one kind of funny question, though. So you mentioned at the beginning of your journey being a streamer that you were really interested in getting involved in corporations. As an interesting thought experiment, since you like arm sharing so much. So what if, you know, we're having this conversation right now, like, what if the floodgates of heaven opened up and Yago descended into your room and was like, "Come with me, Neg. Come to Hololive EN." Would you take his hand?
Well, first of all.
And yes, I am going to show that graphically on the actual video.
You saw my like expression morph as you did. All right. First of all, Yago wouldn't want me in Hololive because I discuss way too many volatile topics. At least for the sphere of VTubers, right? Like just yesterday, I think I might have like upset some of my audience with like my thoughts on like, so where do we draw the line on a VTuber performing kayfabe? How much lying is an okay amount of lying?
And
right?
Kayfabe is, for people that don't know, is the GFE stuff, right?
Kayfabe came from wrestling, so kayfabe is sort of like keeping up the character, keeping up the illusion of the character. Yeah, so maybe it's GFE, or maybe it's like, you know, someone very staunchly being like, "I am a 20-foot tall purple platypus, and that is what I am." And instead of talking about, you know, today at work I did this, they'll be like, "Today, when I went to the river to gather fish, this happened." You know, like being very, very staunchly performative with their character, right? And so like I was like talking about how like, so to what extent is it kayfabe and to what extent is it unethical lying? And we were sort of talking around that. And I think, you know, the conversation must have upset a bunch of people because
really?
Where a lot of people draw the line.
Why did they get upset by that?
I guess like it really comes down to like sort of, well, not upset per se, but like it made a bunch of people really think about things, and I'd say that is uncomfortable, right? Cause like, say for example, like what if, you know, we had the discussion of what if like there was a 40-year-old man using a voice changer who was pretending to be a young girl and like being a VTuber. And so like, you know, people were really mad about that because, hey, these, like, he lied to these people gave him money, and that was really wrong, that was really bad of him. And like my opinion on that is just, well, why is it so bad, right? Because is it kayfabe, right? Is it lying, or is it kayfabe? Or
it could be neither, right? I mean, there's that one guy in I think Japan or whatever that got caught with his webcam on because he was doing that exact same thing, and he was like a 40-year-old man, and his community morphed into still giving him money, like playing the tween girl because it was just so funny, right? I mean,
yeah, because it was just so fun. It can be a mixture. Yeah, but I guess like once again, right? I feel like it really boils down to what you personally want to get out of watching a VTuber and what the other person wants to get out of being a VTuber. Because like, what if that is just a 40-year-old man who wants to get in touch with his feminine side, and sort of like acting like a cute girl on the internet helps him explore who he is? Like, maybe on the surface it's playing pretend, and maybe on the surface you might think he's deceiving people, but like, you know, like some people are kind of like, I'd only accept it if he was upfront about the fact that he was actually just a 40-year-old man. Well, that's gonna change the way that his audience sees him, and that's gonna change the way that that's gonna change everything about the dynamic. What if he really just wants to live life as a cute girl, right? And what if he wants to have that part of his life where he really does get to be a cute girl in a safe environment? Because streaming and VTubing, it's a like relatively safe environment. Like you don't know that, and it's not up to you to say that, oh, he was just doing this to scam money and deceive people. Like, come on, man. I know better than anybody how hard it is to stream for long hours and fake your entire personality, your entire identity. So there must have been a part of that 40-year-old man on the inside that really, really, really likes being a cute girl. And like, yeah, like, you know, some people might feel deceived, right? And some people might feel deceived to be like, oh, but he was lying. I thought I was watching a cute girl. Oh, all this money that I sent to him, wasted, you know, or like, you know, it can feel like you're being lied to. It can feel like the streamer is untruthful, and it can feel really dirty, right? It's kind of like, wait, everything I knew was a lie? And I understand and I empathize with that viewpoint as well. But also I empathize and understand the other viewpoint of maybe he just really wanted somewhere to be a cute girl. Like, are you going to demonize him for that? Is that so wrong to have somewhere that you get to be someone that you want to be or explore another part of yourself, right? Like, it's all about personal boundaries at that point. It's all about what you personally enjoy, and it's just it's really hard, right? It is really, really hard to say, like, is that unethical? I don't know. Depending on who you're asking, they'll say different things. But me, personally, considering, like, everything, I'll say, well, look, I've never watched him. But I don't just want to say that, oh, he was lying to everyone. Because there must be a part of it that's not a lie, right?
So would you say that assessment then is situational? Because I know there's other instances in the VTuber community where, and I'm not going to bring up the specific person, but a large corporate VTuber who is no longer a large corporate VTuber, you know, really enjoyed doing the GFE stuff, and it came out that she was married and had been married and still selling products, you know, on her website and you know, personally involving people in believing that this GFE fantasy was real, right? Keeping up the act, you know, so to say. Would you say, in terms of the VTuber community, is there a line for you that you're not willing to cross, where you put your foot down and you say, no, that actually is really, like, really scummy, right? Or is it, you know, on a case by case basis of, you know, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, right?
I definitely think it's a case-by-case basis. I think it's a case-by-case basis because, sorry, just like dialing, just like rolling it back to the whole, you know, 40-year-old man being a cute girl thing, right? Like, I really thought about it. I thought about it a lot. And I guess I don't know the specifics of it. But it's, once again, it's like so hard for me to say, because being a VTuber, depending on your size, depending on how you market yourself, like, a lot of people see VTubers as different things, and it's also kind of like a unspoken rule of the kayfabe is kayfabe, like, you know what I mean? Like, that there's all sorts of VTubers out there. Like, who's to say that, like, what if somebody's kayfabe is, I am, like, someone's like, what, like 20 years old in real life, but then, like, online, everything is the same, except I'm gonna pretend that I'm 50 years old. Like, is that still scummy? Isn't it still basically the same thing? Right? So it's like, it really depends. And I think like, coming back to your point about the corporate VTuber who was doing GFE, yada yada yada, came out that she was married. I don't want to like talk too much about this specific case, but in this specific case, right, I think there was definitely irresponsibility on the case of the VTuber, because you see what you're doing to your community, you see what you are doing to your audience. So I would say it's a case-by-case situation. If you see that it is getting to a point where your audience's attachment to you and their like, you know, their belief in your story right? If their belief in your story is so sincere to the point that like, you know, it affects their life, the fact that it is, I guess, quote unquote kayfabe, will it like detrimentally hurt them when they find out it's not real, you know? And I think it's a lot to consider, because there's also, like, you know, safety reasons. Some VTubers, I know a lot of VTubers lie about the fact that they're in relationships because it's a safety thing, right? Like, you don't want to get hate mobbed by someone. And so I do know that there is that, but at the same time, I also do understand the argument for, well, that's unethical, because pretending that you're single is shady, right? But also at the same time, is it? So that's hard to say, right? Like, if you don't sell GFE, is it shady to pretend that you're single? Why do you have to pretend that you're single? I mean, I can think of 1,000 reasons why you have to pretend that you're single, because good old sexism on the internet. Sometimes you just don't want to sometimes girls just don't want to deal with the, no, why are you a streamer if you have a boyfriend? You know, sometimes people just don't want to deal with that.
So all that is to say that's why Yagu wouldn't want you in Hololive, is basically because you talk about a lot of taboo stuff, or stuff that necessarily isn't either associated with being corporate, I'll say, or, you know, kayfabe. Is that kind of the gist of why he wouldn't come down from heaven?
I think I'm not Cecil. I don't like lewd myself, and I make like very, very like benign potty humor dick jokes, but I'm not corporate safe. I like to talk about, I like to dance around landmines. Let's just say that. You know what I am? I'm like a kid that goes to a landmine field and all the landmines are marked, and I'm like, oh my god, look, there's another one. Oh, look, there's another one. Ooh, this one.
You're sitting there playing hopscotch with pressure plates.
Yeah. I'm playing hopscotch with pressure plates while also talking about how cool the design of the pressure plate is, and like, I wonder who put this here, yada yada. Hey, have you guys seen this pressure plate? Pretty neat, huh? Yeah, and so I genuinely do not think a VTuber company would want me, and I think that's also my appeal as a VTuber as well. The fact that I'm like, if I'm allowed to say what my appeal is, like, that I'm, I guess, generally chill about these things. I try to be generally chill about these things, and I try to have nuanced discussions about taboo topics, uncomfortable topics.
Well, and it puts you in a unique position as well too, because, you know, oftentimes, you know, for people that aren't aware, when we say so and unsay so is basically like, you know, angelic, safe for work, like, you know, not touching controversy with you know, a 10-foot pole. As safe as you can possibly be, as milquetoast as you can possibly be. Whereas unsay so is basically like people that will go out of their way to do like the most degenerate stuff, or generally that's what it's, you know, referred to. So, you know, when a lot of people in the VTuber community refer to themselves as, you know, unsay so, it's generally like, you know, you're going on the internet making the aha gal face and drawing lewd art and retweeting lewd stuff on Twitter and stuff like that. But I feel like, you know, in the course of us discussing this, when you say that you're unsay so in the sense that you're not doing those, you know, lewd kind of GFE things that we discussed earlier. What you're doing is you're not afraid to talk about topics that others might shy away from. In that sort of sense, you know, you do end up presenting a sort of unique appeal in the VTuber community.
But I will also say that, like, I really don't want to like talk myself up like, oh yeah, I'm the only one that does this, because I don't think I am, yeah. And I think that the way that I talk about things, it does also tend to be quite milquetoast, because I know that like there are certain things that I should never talk about, and I also know that like there are certain ways that things should never be talked about. But like it's sort of how do I put this? I guess I'm just not Cecil. Yeah, but I wouldn't say that I'm like on the opposite side. I'm in the middle. I'm a person.
Well, yeah, and again, that's why I was meaning to convey, as that you've managed to basically carve out a unique little little spot where you're not say so, but you're not quite unsay so either. It's more so like funny purple wolf on the internet, right? So
That's what I mean by I want to give the friend experience.
The friend experience. I love
The
it
best
when you say
friend
that.
experience
It's so funny.
or something like that.
So on that note, though, when we talk about you and your struggles with developing relationships in the VTuber community, because you don't want to feel like you're only doing it because the relationship you have with another person, whether or not that be a content creator or a VTuber, you're only forming this relationship because it's mutually beneficial to both parties. But you did mention that you have friends in the VTuber community, and when I say that, I'm specifically referring to like Zomu, for instance, who did your original song. You mentioned, I believe that he was one of your friends, and I believe you also mentioned that you have another instrumentalist who does work for you pro bono. And I guess in these sort of, I'll call them transactional relationships, what kind of separated those relationships from you, and how are those different than, you know, what you were speaking about earlier about not wanting to form friendships that are just transactional / mutually beneficial?
I think these friendships are friendships because we have had conversations and interactions about stuff outside of just work, and we don't pretend to like each other more than we do. If you know what I mean. Because I noticed that like something that a lot of VTubers they like to do is they like to overplay how much they love someone, how good of a friend they are with someone. And yeah, like I have friends who I genuinely feel strongly for, right? I have people that I genuinely feel strongly for. But I guess it's just, how do I put this? When I talk to other VTubers, it feels like I am talking to a PR team as opposed to another person sometimes. It feels like I am talking to a very curated person, and honestly, that's fine, right? Because of every relationships we start as strangers. We are going to start every relationship as strangers, and that is perfectly fine, and it is okay to be a little bit more formal at the start. But sometimes it does rub me a little bit the wrong way, you know, because it feels like all this flowery attitude. It feels like it doesn't feel like I'm speaking to a person, right? It feels like I'm speaking to a business entity, and it is really unfortunate, because I do know that a lot of VTubers, they have to act this way because, you know, it's a dangerous world out there, right? You have no idea who you're talking to. Like I could be someone that like flies off the handle I could blow up at something, and you wouldn't know because I'm a stranger. You would, but like talking professionally to people is safe. Is safe, and I am not disparaging people at all for like maintaining that professional attitude. But to me, it's just, I want to go into a relationship, like, you know, a friendship relationship with someone when we're talking on the same level, by being a friend, right? By just casually chilling out, shooting the shit. And I don't want to feel like I'm playing office politics, especially not in my hobby. Or especially not somewhere that, like, you know, beforehand, like, I was never good at talking to people in the office. I was never ever good at talking to coworkers. And so to me it feels like when I talk to other VTubers, I am immediately treated like a coworker instead of someone to be engaged with honestly. And like I said before, right, I'm really bad at small talk. I jump into the uncomfortable stuff immediately. And once again, uncomfortable, it is in the word. Uncomfortable.
So do you find that jumping into uncomfortable territory, I won't say immediately, but you know, having the opportunity to do that, and having that opportunity to present itself, and seeing how the other party kind of reacts, or, you know, if they take the bit, I'll say, or you know, if they engage with what you're trying to bring forward, does that kind of allow you to start transitioning, I'll say, to something that's more genuine, a more genuine version of Neg Nasu, as opposed to the more PR presentable version. Like, if someone jumps into your if someone jumps into your DMs and you guys are professional and cordial, like, what is the process of you like actually developing a genuine friendship? Like, do you start bringing up topics that you believe you're both probably interested in and probably have an interest in outside of just, well, I'll say work, right? Because you used coworkers as an example. Is that kind of how you start to expand, I guess, the boundary of your relationship with this other person?
I think it's not it's not like I have a system for it, right? Because this has only successfully happened a handful of times. And in those handful of times, like, it's all been different catalysts. Like, the catalyst for one of them is like me wanting to breach that gap, and me asking for advice on something a little bit more personal, because I have sort of like passed my value judgment on this person, and I thought, you know what, I want to be closer friends with this person, so I'm going to share something personal with them, right? And I want to see where this personal thing goes. And then after that, like, I would, in my brain, it's like social link unlocked if they take it well. In other times, like, I have had friends, or like quote unquote like business relationships, come to me to ask for advice. And then sometimes, like, there are people who just like straight up interact with me, like, wholeheartedly genuine. It does not feel like PR, and I will accept them wholeheartedly as well. And so it really is it really is a mixed bag, but like, it's also one of those cases where, like, I can tell when you are speaking to me as PR, and it's sort of like, I don't think poorly of you, because I'm also gonna speak back to you in PR speak. We need it. It's our shield against the world, right? But it's just like those kinds of relationships, I'm really bad at keeping up with them. Because I, once again, am really bad at forcing myself to care about something that I do not care about. And if I have any reason to believe that this other person doesn't genuinely care about me as a person, then I also am not going to think about that, right? And
when you say you have to use PR speak to kind of, I'll say, the VTuber community has to use PR speak to kind of protect itself from itself, are you referring to, like, people that, like, will use something that you say in DMs or in confidentiality to you, and, throw all the screenshots into a twit longer and basically use that as kind of like like a Neg Nasu exposed kind of thing? Is that more so like where that concern stems from? Because again, you and I are both aware that the VTuber community is well known for both drama farmers and drama hogs. So is that where that concern stems from? Is there a different origin from that?
I think that's part of it, and also a different part of it is sort of, I guess, the same reason why you would be cordial and PR speaky with your coworkers, right? It's just you don't know this person, but you also want to come across as friendly, and you also maybe want to potentially collaborate. And so, like, VTubing has this really unique issue where everyone will say friend when they mean business partner that I am friendly with, because like, everyone wants to pretend that these friendships only exist because, oh wow, we're such good friends, we are friends, therefore we are doing this. When like, to be honest, like, a lot of friendships, they really are business relationships. It's a performance. Like, the friendship is a performance because the viewers like it, right? Viewers like the performance of friendship. And so I think the reason why people use that business speak of, oh wow, I love you so much, we are such good friends, maybe they don't really care about you, or I don't know. It's just, it's very hard to tell the difference, I guess. I have had bad experiences with stuff like that. I won't elaborate too much into it because I don't want to implicate anyone. I'm not here to point fingers at anyone. right? And like, if anyone's watching this assuming it is somebody, it probably isn't the person you assume it is. Because a lot of talking happens like behind closed doors, right? And there have been like people who have reached out to me either via email or via DMs wanting to collab, and I talked to them for a bit, and then I realized like they don't actually like me. they just want to collab because they think it's a good business opportunity, but then they keep saying friendship words. They keep saying friendship words, but it's really obvious that the friendship words are not real. And so at that point, I kind of like sort of flake away from them. So there's a lot of stuff like that has happened to me that I haven't spoken about in public, and nobody knows about it in public. I have never interacted with these people in public, but it's happened. It's happened before, like especially like towards the start of when I first debuted, right? Towards like the start of this whole VTuber thing, like it's happened so much. And maybe some people might call me weak for being like, oh, you should have given the friendship a chance. You should have just collabed with them and seen where it goes. Maybe a real friendship grows from that. But like, I'm really bad at pretending to feel cared about by someone that I know doesn't care about me. And it makes me feel bad. And I don't want to do that because it makes me feel bad.
Have you run into the opposite situation though? Like, have you run into a situation where like, you're both on professional terms and like you get the sense that they don't really care about you, but it's like, maybe they come back later and they're like, oh no, I actually like just thought you were a cool person. Like, have you run into that at all, or has it literally been like, oh no, this was strictly business on my end?
I think I've run into that before as well. Yeah, like at first, like I see a DM and I think it's purely business, and I'm like, oh well, whatever, right? And then like they talk more to me, and then like I revise my judgment. I'm like, oh wait, actually no, hold on a second.
Human relationships are tricky.
Human relationships are so tricky, and it's so hard as well, because in VTubing, like, friendship is a performance as well. Like, God, it's so hard, bro. It's so hard. And also another reason why I don't like engaging too much with other VTubers is that, like, that is part of the reason. And also, I have my own community that I rather hang out with than like look for other strangers, VTubers, to collab with for growth, right? Like, I have my own community to worry about. Like, these are the people that I actually like. Why would I collab with a stranger and pretend that we are best friends forever, while also like semi-ignoring the people that I spend the most time around anyway? Right?
Switching gears a little bit. So regarding content creation in general, and I think you may have touched on aspects of this a little bit, but are there certain things that you like absolutely are like, oh my god, I love this part of being a VTuber? And are there certain parts, I think you touched on this a minute ago as well, that you're like, this is like the most awful thing in the world. Like, I hate this part of being a VTuber. It sucks. Like, and do you, springing off those two questions, is there anything where you're like, I don't love or hate this, I just really wish I was better at it?
I really wish I was better at talking to other VTubers. It's okay. It's ironic coming off the conversation that we just did, but I do think that behind a lot of corporate speak, there are just people, and so I have had experiences before where I thought that somebody was corporate speaking the whole time, and in hindsight, they might have actually wanted a friendship, but because our communication styles were so wildly different that, like, I completely misunderstood, and I might have hurt them, right? I might have hurt them by like shying away, because at the time, like, I was kind of a little bit mad as well, because it felt like they didn't care about me, and it felt like they were aggressively trying to care about me, like trying to show that they did. But it's just like a difference in communication styles, right? And like so this was before my big revelation, the brain expansion. Like I need to, like, we need to have a marker for it, right? It's kind of like BB before brain.
Well, you know what I'm gonna do? Have you watched JJK at all?
No.
Like Jujutsu Kaisen?
No, I'm allergic to hype.
Okay, but do you know the because we were talking about the Goku drip meme? Do you know like Gojo and like the domain expansion thing? Where
Yes.
Okay. I'm just gonna put your head over like Gojo, and it's just gonna be domain expansion, infinite friendship, and that's just gonna be like that's gonna be your domain expansion.
Yeah, it was before like the big revelation. There we go. Let's call it the big revelation. It was before my big revelation.
Okay. Domain expansion, big revelation.
Yeah. It was before my domain expansion, big revelation, that
Gotcha, okay.
I made this mistake, right? And I think I really hurt some people, and it was just not good. Like that time, I made some really, really silly decisions. I was overly suspicious of the people around me because I just felt, and I was so disillusioned with the whole like VTuber thing, and I didn't know what I was doing, and so yeah. If you're talking about like the opposite in this way, then it has happened before, and that is something that I really regret, and I still do regret to this day, that I let that happen. You know, the whole time I wanted to be honest, and I wanted to sort of be forthright. But in that, I was unable to be honest to people who I thought only wanted me for business relationships. Like, if only I had that conversation with them instead of just running away, then, you know, maybe things could have been different.
Your content, your brand, your streaming, you have a full-time job now. You still haven't learned how to drive, but that's okay. I'm not holding that against you.
No, I'm still a student right now.
Where do you see, your brand, content, streaming, music? Where do you see all that stuff in, let's say, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years down the road? Are you still going to be alive? Or are you going to be, like, graduated up into the heavens?
I don't even know what's gonna happen next year, so 5 years is a bit of a tall ask for me. I think
where do you want it to go? I'll put it that way. Where would you, in an ideal world where Yagu has still not come down from the heavens and offered you the Hololive flag, where would you want to be? I'll say in 1, 3 to 5 years.
1, 3 to 5 years. I want to own a house.
That's not related to your streaming, but okay.
No. I haven't finished my sentence yet.
Okay.
I want to own a house. I want to have a full-time job that pays me 6 figures, but also doesn't give me a lot of work, so I can just do my code wizardry from a work-at-home job. You get paid 6 figures, and like for most of that time that I'm at home, I'm just waiting to be given work. But when I am given work, I complete it very fast. No, it's still related to VTubing. Okay, it's still related. Hold your horses. Okay, and then during the downtime, I will be working on VTuber content. And then at night, I will keep streaming for potentially 5 to 4 days a week.
That's a good dream to have. That's a good dream to have. Yeah. So nothing like, let's say I'll say milestones, right? So like become the next big thing in the VTuber industry, 100,000 followers on Twitch, thousands of concurrent viewers, like no ambitions like that?
I feel like it's dangerous to have ambitions. I am naturally an ambitious person. And so I don't want to taint the thing that I love doing as a hobby with ambition anymore. The only ambition I will have is for projects that I want to do. No number ambitions, no number-based ambitions. I disabled the emails from Twitch that send me numbers. I do not check my numbers. I am still looking for an extension for Chrome that hides raid numbers when you raid into someone.
Oh, does that not hide if you do the thing on Twitch where you hide the view count?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It does the whole, like, you are raiding with yada 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 many people, and then when you raid in, it's kind of like Neg Nasu just raided with blah, 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 people, And also, like, I want to disable, like, people counts for raiders coming in as well. I just want to kill the presence of all numbers, because that's not what this is about for me. I mean, like, if people want to give me more pocket money, and if I can buy more Hot Wheels, then and I can get started on my Lego hyperfixation, then, like, oh yeah, right? If people want to send me more money for that, I will welcome that. But, like,
don't say that. You're gonna get a bunch of tier 3 subs after this comes out. So
no. I don't want to ask for anything. Okay, like the only reason I'm sad when someone's not subbed is that they can't use emotes. They can't use the emotes, and that's kind of sad, because I want to see them use my emotes. So, like, I might like gift sub myself, actually. Just so I can see more people use emotes. Yeah, I think I might start implementing that. But, like, you know, like, I saw what ambition did to me, and I don't want to go back there. Maybe I am being a little bit too overly cautious. Maybe if you come back to me in a year, I'll say something different. But I think big revelation only happened to me, like, last year. So I think not enough time has passed for me to, like, entirely feel comfortable saying, all right, I'm ready to have ambitions again, because I want to enjoy the time that I have now, you know.
You don't want to stress out about it as though it's a job again, right? So
right. And I know it's a slippery slope, and it can sneak up on you even when you're not noticing.
Well, I need to put it out there that there's a certain irony to an engineer wanting to kill the numbers. I'll put it that way.
Listen. I'm telling you, okay? There's 3 wolves inside me. One of them is an engineer. That is the reclusive programmer that will sit in her dark room and program and have fun as an engineer. The other one is funny comedian on the internet that does yeehaw wahoo things and is super social. And then the secret third wolf inside me is the artist, is the quiet artist that wants to do artistic things.
And
the 3 sides of me.
That brings up something I want to ask you. So, you know, I really enjoy your streams. Your streams are a lot of fun to watch. But as we've been talking about your HCI stuff, have you thought about doing any kind of, like, HCI streaming?
So here's the thing, right? I like to talk about my engineering stuff on stream. I like to talk about it. I like to introduce people to it. I like to sort of, like, hear other people's thoughts and other cool tech stuff that people are doing. But I am hesitant to mix that with streaming, because I think it's like one step too close to home. Well, it is one step too close to home.
Well, do you think that? Are you concerned that does basically bring it back to, okay, well, now I've just reintroduced something that was completely separate from my streaming stuff back into streaming, so now everything loops back into streaming? Is that
essentially yes? Essentially yes. I think that's like a personal separation. It's not like I want to keep that private from my viewers. No, it's a personal brain barrier of this needs to be its own thing. Because, like, nobody... Okay, I know pilots that play Flight Simulator after coming home from work, but, like, I'm not talking about them, okay? But nobody wants to go to work and then come home to do even more work. Not at work, right? And nobody wants to do that. Unless you're the pilot that plays Flight Simulator. Then like, you are a different breed. I salute you.
When we talked the other day, that you mentioned that Twitter is anxiety inducing for you. Why is that?
It fills your brain and your eyes with everyone else's W's. And it also fills your brain and it fills your eyes with a lot of drama, a lot of bad stuff. And of course, bad stuff and good stuff, wow. But it reminds me of how much information is out there, and I can't process all of that at once. I can't process everything. I can barely emotionally process something before I scroll over the next post, and things move so incredibly fast. It feels like I have to be active on Twitter, otherwise Twitter will absolutely nuke my account discoverability. Ugh. And I do like it when my announcements actually get seen, right? And then I guess it's also just everyone else is pumping out content at such a breakneck pace that it feels like, well, why am I even here? You know, like even if I'm not trying to do this professionally anymore, like I still have my pride and my ego as an artist and a creator, right? And I think a lot of artists can relate as well. Like seeing all of this content out there coming out so fast, it makes you demotivated. It makes you feel not good at drawing. And also you see a lot of garbage as well that you don't want to see because Twitter recommends like a whole bunch of garbage, right? And once again, like when you're following a friend, sometimes you don't want to see all of their retweets or sometimes you don't want to see everything that they say. And that's not a knock on your friendship at all, right? Like you can be friends with someone and you can still like someone, but also feel exhausted by the volume of stuff that they say. It's not mutually exclusive, and I think that is fine. But I guess like one of the main reasons why Twitter is still anxiety inducing to me is back when I was before Revelation, before the Great Revelation, I went on Twitter and all I saw were people that I was in competition with. All I saw were, oh, I have to beat this person. All I saw were, oh, I probably have to hop on this trend. Oh, should I hop on this trend? Should I do this thing? Oh, people are doing this thing now. Oh, should I do this thing? I know I should do this thing, but shouldn't I? And it's just like a whole bunch of things that are reminding me, you have a million things that you need to do. You haven't done the million things that you need to do. You haven't done the million things that you need to do. You're falling behind. You're falling behind. You're falling behind. TikTok. Time is running out. Time is running out. You know, and like, I think right now, my brain still hasn't let go of the association between Twitter and that.
So so we're going to dive into stuff a little bit more seriously, and we're gonna keep going. So when we talked the other day, and I think you mentioned it on one of your streams as well, back in 2022, you used to have a manager, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday. So is this before El Revolution? And or El Revelation, and you know, how did you was there a part of you that was like, oh, I need a manager, or was it just something that like popped up out of nowhere? What was your relationship to the manager, and you know, why are they no longer managing you?
All right, this is a long story. Better strap in, buddy. So it all started when I got my full-time job in 2022. The quote-unquote internship, right? And so I was, at that point, like this was before El Revolution, so all that stuff that was happening with my community, that was still happening. I was still not entirely comfortable with my community, and I was still trying to like find a way to feel respected, to feel well liked, but also to sort of like grow myself as a VTuber. And so I guess like one day, like I tweeted out, I need a manager, woozy face, you know, I need a manager. And so somebody reached out to me, and I asked my friends, you know, hey, is this guy any good? And my friends are like, yeah, we can vouch for this guy. Sorry, this was before I got my job, actually. Yeah, we can vouch for this guy. And I'm like, okay. So I started talking to this guy as a manager, right? And so he gave a lot of advice, helped me, you know, rearrange my Discord server, made a podcast channel, and pretty much like told me to stream, I guess, 2 hours at a time, you know, don't stream for too long, yada yada yada, and do structured streams same time every day because it will help keep you consistent. And I was like, okay, so I followed his advice, and so I was ready to put my entire faith into this guy because I was at my wit's end, right? And I'm just kind of like, all right, just make things good. I will do everything you say, because sometimes in life you just want someone to tell you everything to do, right? And also because I'm an indecisive person, like I was asking my friends all the time about how like, hey, you think I should do this? Hey, you think I should do that? And they were like, yeah, I think a manager would be great for you because it's someone to literally tell you, is it a good idea to do this or that, and to help you wrangle your brainworms, right? Pretty much someone to hold your hand through the entire process and say, it's gonna be okay, because my anxiety was crippling. Absolutely crippling. And so like that continued for a few weeks, until I had to start my job, and my time zone got turned upside down. Now this is the story about how the job turned my time zone upside down. And I could no longer stream at the same time slot that I used to stream. That manager and I could no longer have good communication because when I was at work, they were awake. When I came home from work, they were asleep, right? And so at that point, I was like, it was kind of like, yeah, let's not do this anymore, right? A manager breakup? Yeah, a manager breakup. And he was like, yeah, no worries, bruh. No worries, bruh. Good luck. And it's kind of like, yeah, thanks, bruh. It was very chill like that. And so once again, it felt like I was starting from zero because I flipped my time zone and my viewership cut in half. Before I felt like I was stuck at 50 average viewers. Then I went down to 30 or 20 average viewers because I was streaming at like 6 a.m. American time. 5 a.m., 6 a.m. American time, like that's gonna be a completely different demographic, right? All the while, the issues in my community, well, the uncomfortable feeling I had in my community still hadn't been solved. But then I thought maybe this is a good way to like completely revamp my community, but it didn't quite work. And so like I continued like this over a few weeks at my job, and I was like, I was quickly burning out. I was feeling tired because, you know, it still felt like I'm trying to make this work. Streaming is now an obligation. It's an obligation on top of job. And I spoke to a friend of mine, and we were in a voice call in this friend's server, and a stranger hopped in, right? A friend of a friend hopped in, and sort of like, because I was just shooting the shit talking and sort of like venting a little bit, like, I'm so tired, so burnt out. That person who jumped in, he said, hey, I can be your new manager. I can help you, right? And he gave me pretty much his, no, he didn't say that outright. I said, yeah, well, that's it. And then he said, well, what are you looking for in a manager? And I said, oh, you know, someone to help me make decisions, you know, talk me out of things, check my schedule, see if it's okay, and help me like reread things, essentially read emails, yada yada yada, you know, advice generally, right? And so he was like, okay. And then a few days later, he comes to me with like his resume, I guess, and says, I would like to apply for this position. Right? And so he's been helping, quote unquote, do managerial tasks for another VTuber who I guess was a Twitch partner at the time. And he said that like, I did this, I did all this, and I did all that, and I helped grow this person from this to this. You know, like the general stuff of people like presenting their case. Like it felt quite professional, and I was like, you know what? All right, let's do this. Right, let's do this. I am burning out. I am already at my wit's end, so I am going to put 100% faith into you. So, probably a really bad idea because this person was a stranger. But like at that point, I was taking anything I could get, right? First thing that happened was my friends did not like this person at all. My friends were like, Neg, are you sure? And I was just like, well, he has a track record of good things and he doesn't seem like a bad person, right? And they're just kind of like, I don't know, we just feel a little bit off, but like, whatever you say, right? And so I trusted him. And I think our communication styles were very different. I don't want to disparage him at all. My friends didn't like him because they thought like, Neg, what are you doing? Like, this person is so different from the direction that you want to take your content. This person feels very different from, you know, it's not like they disliked him, like, oh, I hate his guts, he's a bad person. No, it wasn't like that. It was just, are you sure about this? Right? And so I said, yeah, like, he has a proven track record. I can trust him. Right? And so he shared like, and so like I became friends with this manager because like I don't like, you know, holding professional relationships that's purely say professional. I want my manager to be able to know me as a person, and I want to know him as a person, right? And so he shared with me some private information about other VTubers as sort of like a mark of friendship, you know, like off the cuff, you know, a friend to friend. I know this about this VTuber. And I'm like, okay, so this person really trusts me, which means I can trust this person. I suppose we are friends now, right? And I guess like they gave me a bunch of advice. They told me to branch out, to feel more comfortable collabing with people. And they told me, Neg, you can't be like shy about collabing with people. You can't like hold on to this. Like, everything is a performance, you know? Like, being a VTuber is a performance, and that extends to the relationships that you form. And if you want to make it, you've got to do this. I'm paraphrasing. And anytime I express reluctance, he kind of says like, he's always said, I never forced you to do anything you didn't want to do. But whenever I said I don't like something, he always said, all right, I'm just saying it'll be good for you. And it'll kind of be like a, well, just so you know what you're missing out on. And at that point, like, my anxiety was really high. So like, I was always thinking, am I missing out? Am I missing out? Am I missing out? And so anything that happened, I would just bite my tongue and say, all right, I'll listen to you. I'll do it. And that helped me, you know, like pushing from this manager, like, helped me slowly put my foot down. But it wasn't until, I guess, like, everything reached a breaking point where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is way too much, because I felt like I was doing a bunch of stuff that was amounting to nothing. And this included, you know, this included like saying that I was good friends with people that I might not otherwise have been. I felt like a liar, and I felt like I was lying to those people as well. And I guess like I don't want to disparage that manager, because I'm not here to like put anybody on blast, right? It's just, he and I were very different people, and I put my faith in him because I wasn't strong enough myself to take responsibility for my actions. So I pretty much just let him do what he wanted, because this is good for me, this will be good for me, this will be good for me, this will be good for me. Kind of like he was a parent, right? Until it got to a point where I want to quit. This was the inciting incident of the big revelation. I got to a point where I said, I want to quit. I'm going to quit streaming. After all of my merch gets sent out, and after I've confirmed everyone received their merch, I'm going to quit streaming. I even set up a date for myself. I made preparations to quit in the middle of 2022, and I was going to stream normally, pretend that everything is okay, and then just until, like, you know, all that merch stuff and all the ongoing projects were wrapped up. And then I would just say, I'm going on a hiatus, no graduation stream, and I was just gonna stop. I was ready to stop. I was done, right? I was done. And well, while I was streaming with the feeling, and I told my manager, like, I don't want you managing me anymore. Like, this is done. You can do whatever now, you know. I'm not friends with this manager anymore, by the way, because I guess like our communication style is very, very different. He has said some very unintentionally hurtful things to me, and I just didn't want that in my life. So pretty much after I said goodbye to my manager, and after I was streaming with the intention of quitting, I started realizing, hey, actually, now that I've hit rock bottom and I want to quit, this is fun again. I get to do whatever the heck I want. I get to be whatever the heck I want, and I get to ban whoever the hell I want. I get to call out whatever the hell I want, right? And like I don't ban people randomly anymore. Back in the day, I used to just ban people and be like, out of mind, out of sight. Nowadays, I at least try to like tell people like, hey man, to knock that out, kind of thing. But pretty much, my second wind was literally me dying. Like, I want to quit. And then after that, coming back and being like, actually, this is not so bad. And so I have decided from then on that like I will never let myself get to that point of desperation.
So the incident was actually the catalyst for your rebirth, essentially, is what you're telling me.
Essentially, yeah, the incident was my catalyst for the rebirth. And also I realized how anxious I was. I used to be on antidepressants when I was a bit younger. And then I stopped using them because I was like, oh, you know, I don't think I need these meds. I think I can deal with things on my own. But this whole wild VTuber ride made me realize I probably need to be on anxiety meds. I probably need to be on antidepressants because thank God, like all this wishy-washiness happened around VTubing and not around my IRL engineering career. And that is the story of how Neg Nasu died. Good night.
What a way to end it.